nature, he spontaneously engages in the most exalted spiritual activities, just as an innocent child may spontaneously exhibit good qualities such as kindness, tolerance, and so on. The spiritual platform is called Shuddha Sattva, or purified goodness, to distinguish it from the material mode of goodness, which is always to some extent polluted by lower modes of passion and ignorance. Thus, if a man in material goodness appears to be most pious in the eyes of the world, we can only imagine the spotless character of a self-realized soul in purified spiritual goodness. Okay, so that's how, yes, the Bhakti Bhagavata Kinchana. So that's how the good qualities become second nature. So on the Vedis on the platform, then one has to consciously practice what is good, what is wrong. One has to do it consciously. But then later on, it becomes a person's second nature. So he doesn't have to even think about it. Okay, and the last verse. Sarvabhuta surishanto jnana vijnana nishchayah pashyan mad atmakam vishwam na vipadyeta vaipunaha. One who is the kind well-wisher of all living beings, who is peaceful and firmly fixed in knowledge and realization, sees me within all things. Such a person never again falls down into the cycle of birth and death. So the Lord is telling him the result of being fixed in consciousness of Him. Then one is able to see everything in relationship to the Lord. And the result of that will be na vipadyeta vai punaha. One will never again come into the cycle of birth and death. So that's the end of the Lord's instructions to Uddhav. So now let's go ahead. Shri Shuka Uvacha Ityadishto Bhagavata Mahabhagavato Nripa Uddhava Pranipatyaha Tattvam Jigyasurachutam. Read.
Who was eager to receive knowledge from the Lord. Uddhava then offered
Okay. Thus the words Tattvam Jigyasu indicate that since Lord Krishna is about to leave the earth, Uddhava is most anxious to deepen his understanding of the Lord so that he may further advance in loving service at the Lord's lotus feet. Now Uddhava begins to speak. Shri Uddhava Uvacha Yogesha Yoga Vinyasa Yogatman Yoga Sambhava Nishreyasaya me proktas Tyaga Sanyasa Lakshanaha.
My dear Lord, you alone know what the results of yoga practice, and you are so kind that by your own influence you distribute the perfection of yoga through worship. Thus, you are the supreme soul who is realized through yoga, and it is you who are the origin of all mystic power. For my supreme benefit, you have explained the procedure for giving up the material world through the process of sannyas or renunciation.
Okay. So 4 days, everybody is tired, I think. Huh? Fifth day. 4 days.
We are eager to hear from you.
Yeah?
We're eager to hear from you the 11th canto.
Oh, you're in Bangalore.
Yes, I read today joining.
We appreciate your enthusiasm. So we are talking about here the Mahabhagavats here. So if Bhaktivedanta, this is the situation, then what can we expect from others? Bhaktivedanta, topmost, yad yad acharati shreshtas. Then what others will do? They will say, these people are they're going to get Bhaktivedanta title, Prabhupada's title, Bhaktivedanta. Huh? I think so. We have to have some serious consideration on this. I'm seriously going to consider. We are getting title of Bhaktivedanta. It cannot be so cheap. There must be some practice. उसको पहले बंद करो. दो मोबाइल लेकर बैठा है. Arjuneshwar Prabhu, so I'm seriously saying this, no jokes. Hmm. So henceforth, attendance is being taken, no? Huh? So not only attendance, so see now it is 11 o'clock. So whoever comes after 11, please make a note of it. I'm requesting you. We want people of character. We don't want to give this Bhaktivedanta title cheaply. Okay? So please note down. From next time, please note down. Okay? And you send out a mail. I'm telling you, you send out a mail. You send out a mail to all the Bhaktivedanta students that those who don't come by 11 a.m., those who don't come by 11 a.m., they'll be considered absent. Okay? You send out a mail. You send out a mail to everyone, put me in CC, Gopal Champru and Kane Krishna. Put three of us in CC and send a mail to all the Bhaktivedanta students. Okay? If they have a genuine reason, then they should send us a mail. Three of us, they should send mail. Okay, to you, CC to three of us. Then they will be considered present. Is this clear? Okay. For the next, how many ever units are remaining, this will be the policy. Okay. Those who don't adhere to the policy, see, whatever I'm telling you, you write it down. Okay, and you send out this mail. I'm not joking. So whoever doesn't follow this will not be awarded the Bhaktivedanta certificate. Okay, you write this mail to all Bhaktivedanta students, put three of us and Radhesham Prabhu also in CC. If somebody has an objection, they can speak out.
प्रभु जी धन्यवाद प्रणाम.
Wait.
Hare Krishna.
Our Samarpan Gopru has some important things to say.
Okay.
Yes, the same policy applies for online also.
Prabhu, can they speak in mic? Not able to hear.
The mic is on in the process of waking up. So because everyone is not present, the mic is also protesting.
Prabhu, it is yes, that is clear. 11 o'clock thing. Only thing, this next week schedule was announced just 2 days back, and we had planned our Vrindavan Yatra. So can we hear recording?
Okay, so this next time thing is excused, but after that we hope Arjuneshwar Prabhu makes schedule well in advance. So,
That will be very helpful, Prabhu.
Since Brahma's one day, I've been telling that at least 6 months schedule should be made in advance.
Yes, Prabhu.
This I've been telling since Brahma's one day.
If it is met, then we will need to follow. It is just sent a week back.
No.
Actually, even in last month only WhatsApp, I could not send in the message.
See, best is always send 2-3 ways of message. No, one is if somebody doesn't see WhatsApp. So nowadays everyone doesn't have WhatsApp also. So WhatsApp, SMS, mail, three things. Three things. Anything important, send three things. That's what. Now all WhatsApp is gone. It has gone up. Okay, clear, na? No, that actually goes without saying actually. The video has to be on. Okay, so in fact, Madhuchan Prabhu is here, no? We had made policy, no? Video off means absent, correct? Actually, we said online also they're not going to consider, but okay, here there are some, if they are in Pune, they have to be present here, otherwise they'll be considered absent, correct? So that is the online policy. We're telling online devotees. So if you are in Pune, you have to be present in the class. Otherwise, it is considered absent. And if you are online and for a genuine reason, then the two things apply. The timings apply and video on applies. Okay. So all these criteria have to be considered. Okay, Arjunesha Prabhu. So we are only tightening things towards the end of the course now. So,
प्रभु
but
जी
बोलिए.
Madhav Kripa Das here. Prabhu ji,
हाँ.
our data gets complete because every day we are using Zoom for even Bhagavatam class. So now my already data has got over. I am using another devotee's mobile to somehow join the class.
So that those technical things you can work out. What can I say? That you consult your authorities there and you do the needful.
You can purchase some more data.
So that you work out.
And we should send mail, no, Prabhuji, if we are going to be absent for a genuine reason.
Yes.
Yes.
You send mail to Arjuneshwar Prabhu, CC to Kanai Krishna Prabhu, Gopal Chand Prabhu and myself.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Okay, this is the policy for the rest of the Bhaktivedanta course. Bhaktivedanta title cannot be given so cheaply. Okay, let's proceed. 14th verse. Shri Uddhava Uvacha Yogesha Yoga Vinyasa Yogatman Yoga Sambhava Nishreyasaya me proktas Tyaga Sannyasa Lakshanaha. Shri Uddhav said, My dear Lord, you alone award the results of yoga practice, and you are so kind that by your own influence, you distribute the perfection of yoga to your devotee. Thus, you are the Supreme Soul who is realized through yoga, and it is you who are the origin of all mystic power. For my supreme benefit, you have explained the procedure for giving up the material world through the process of sannyas or renunciation. Purport: the word Yogesha here indicates that the Supreme Personality of Godhead awards the results of all yoga practices. So we know that ultimately Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyan Yoga, whatever type of yoga, ultimately the ultimate perfection has to be given by the Supreme Lord, and therefore some bhakti has to be present for all the practitioners. Otherwise, they cannot achieve perfection even in their respective practices. And since the Lord remains eternally the master of his potencies, no one can achieve anything through yoga or any other spiritual or material process except by the sanction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because ultimately, the Lord's energies are acting, and only through his mercy one can achieve perfection. Next paragraph. Since we are linking ourselves to temporary objects, the relationships are temporary, the results are temporary. And at the time of death, we become bewildered when all of our connections are suddenly cut off by Maya. If we link ourselves to Krishna, however, our relationship with him will continue even after death. So, relationship with Krishna is permanent, otherwise, everything else is temporary. Next paragraph. By the methods of Hatha Yoga, Karma Yoga, Raj Yoga, Jnana Yoga, etc., one does not actually awaken his propensity for rendering eternal loving service to the personality of Godhead. Thus, one is bereft of the transcendental taste of spiritual enjoyment. We already discussed this yesterday also when we were discussing Yat Pada Pankaja Palasha Vilasa Bhakti. Okay, 15. Tyagoyam dushkaro bhuman kamanam vishayatmabhi Sutaram tvai sarmatman abhakte riti me mati. My dear Lord, O Supreme Soul, for those whose minds are attached to sense gratification, and especially for those bereft of devotion unto you, such renunciation of material enjoyment is most difficult to perform. That is my opinion. So if somebody is attached to sense gratification, kamanam vishayatmabi, and there's no devotion, then it's very difficult to get renunciation, virakti. So we know this. The two effects of bhakti are jnana and vairagya. So if there is no bhakti, then to get vairagya is very difficult. And we also know that other famous verse, tushti, pushti, kshudapaya. The three are compared to what? What are the three effects in bhakti? Bhakti, pareshanubhava, and virakti. So the virakti is a product of devotional service. 16. Soham mamaham iti mudhamatir vigadhas tvanmayaya virachitatmani sanubhande tatvanjasa nikaditam bhavata yataham samsadhayami bhagavan anushadi vrityam.
O my Lord, I myself am most foolish because my consciousness is merged in the material body and bodily relations, which are all manufactured by your illusory energy. Thus I am thinking, I am this body and all of these relatives are mine. Therefore, my Lord, please instruct your poor servant. Please tell me how can I can easily carry out your instructions.
So, who's speaking this? Uddhav. So, does Uddhav have this bodily concept of mama, aham? He's saying aham, mama, aham, mudhamati, vighada, tvat maya. So, but this again is a common principle we say everywhere. So, this is the platform to gain knowledge. What is that? Humility. That is a common principle throughout the Shastra. Today morning also he was speaking, no? In the Bhagavatam. So the devotee always considers himself a fool, unqualified. So that is the constant mood of a devotee. And so that humility attracts grace, and by grace one acquires knowledge. So therefore, that is the mode in which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself approached his spiritual master. Guru Mora Murkha Deki Karila Shashan. So Mahaprabhu, Supreme Lord, but still he is considering himself a fool before his spiritual master. And that is, you can see all the various examples in Shastra. How many other examples are there? That is always the mood. And so therefore, when that is the mood, then only it is possible for one to gain knowledge. As Krishna again is saying in the 13th chapter, verses 8 to 12, amanitvam, adambitvam. So then that is the process to actually gain knowledge. As Srila Prabhupada describes in those verses, in the purport to those verses, Srila Prabhupada says that all these are various sadhanas. For what? So that the spirit soul comes out of this engagement of the material body. So there are sadhanas by which the kshetrajna comes out of the kshetra, this body. So therefore, that perfection can only be achieved when one has these proper qualifications. And therefore we find this is Uddhav on the platform of prema, but still he's presenting himself so humbly, as if he's a fool in the bodily concept of life, and therefore he is saying, please instruct, Anushadi Bhrityam, I'm simply your Bhritya, I'm your servant. Of course, in the translation it says poor servant. So I'm simply your poor servant, please give me instructions by which I can cross over this illusory energy. So this is the appropriate mood to gain knowledge. So therefore in the purport it said, Sri Uddhava, pure devotee of the Lord, here speaks like an ordinary person, showing how to pray to the personality of Godhead. We practically see that many sinful persons enter the International Society for Krishna Consciousness and after preliminary purification become most repentant for their previous illicit activities. They are shocked when they realize how they gave up the personal association of God to pursue the useless forms created by Maya. Therefore, they wholeheartedly pray to the spiritual master Lord Krishna to be engaged eternally in transcendental devotional service. Such a repentant, eager mentality is most auspicious for spiritual advancement. Okay, that's a nice sentence. Such a repentant, eager mentality is most auspicious for spiritual advancement. The Lord certainly answers the prayers of a repentant devotee desperate to escape the clutches of illusion. So, what happens by repentance? Heart becomes soft. Okay. What else? All sinful reactions are burnt up in the fire of repentance. This is first canto, 19th chapter, first verse. In connection to Parikshit Maharaj, how Parikshit Maharaj was repentant. So that is what happens. And of course, Srila Prabhupada writes that also in the Ajamil pastime, when Ajamil was sincerely and severely repenting for his past sinful activities. So there also Srila Prabhupada writes that every devotee should think like this. What was my situation before and what is my situation now? So if one is having that repentant mentality, then automatically one will become humble because we don't have a great past. As you can see, Uddhav, he is a Nitya Siddha, but still he is having such a humble, repentant heart. So then what to speak of conditioned souls like us? So when we are in that mood, then automatically the humility will be there. And then when the humility is there, automatically the eagerness will be there. And when the repentant heart is there, the eagerness is there, then what is the result of that? The influence of the external potency changes into influence of internal potency. Anyone knows the reference for this? Correct. Duryodhan. There Srila Prabhupada explains that how Duryodhan was influenced by the external potency, but Vidura was influenced by the internal potency, and therefore he could accept Duryodhana's words in the right spirit as the plan of the Lord, and therefore he leaves. But the philosophical aspect of this is described in, please open, first canto, third chapter, text 34. यद्यैषो परता देवी माया वैशारदीमती संपन्न एवेति विदुर्महिम्नि स्वे महीयते. Okay, read the translation purport.
The illusory energy subsides and the living entity becomes fully enriched with knowledge by the grace of the Lord. Then he becomes at once enlightened with self-realization and thus becomes situated in his own glory. Because the Lord is the absolute transcendence, all of his forms, names, pastimes, attributes, associates, and energies are identical with him. His transcendental energy acts according to his omnipotency. The same energy acts as his external, internal, and marginal energies. And by his omnipotency, he can perform anything and everything through the agency of any of above energies. He can turn the external energy. He can turn the external energy into internal by his will. Therefore, by his grace, the external energy which is employed in illusioning those living beings who want to have it subsides by the will of the Lord in terms of repentance and penance for the conditioned soul. And the very same energy then acts to help the purified living being make progress on the path of self-realization. The example of electric energy is very appropriate in this connection. The expert electrician can utilize the electrical energy for both heating and cooling by adjustment only. Similarly, the external energy which now bewilders the living being into continuation of birth and death is turned into internal potency by the will of the Lord to lead the living being to eternal life. When the living being is thus graced by the Lord, he is placed in his proper constitutional position to enjoy eternal spiritual life.
Yes. Okay, so he can turn the external energy into internal energy by his will. So the Lord turns that. But when does he do that? Yes, in terms of repentance and penance for the conditioned soul. And then the very same energy then acts to help the purified living being make progress on the path of self-realization. Okay, so that is what is being explained here also. Yes, that's true. So the repentance is internal, that's correct. And so when one is repentant, then one wants to purify oneself. One is repentant of one's past wrong activities. So then one is serious to purify himself, and the way of purification is penance. That's correct. Okay. 17. सत्यस्य ते स्वदृश आत्मन आत्मनोऽन्यं वक्ता रमेश विबुधेष्वपि नानुचक्षे सर्वे विमोहितधियस्तव मायये मे ब्रह्मादयस्तनुभृतो बहिरर्थभावः.
My dear Lord, you are the absolute truth, the supreme personality of Godhead, and you reveal yourself to your devotees. Besides your Lordship, I do not see anyone who can actually explain perfect knowledge to me. Such a perfect teacher is not to be found even among the demigods in heaven. Indeed, all of the demigods, headed by Lord Brahma, are bewildered by your illusory potency. They are conditioned souls who accept their own material bodies and bodily expansions to be the highest truth.
Okay, so in the previous verse, Uddhava showed his eagerness to receive instructions from the Lord. Now he is explaining why only the Lord. So why he wants to get instructions only from the Lord? Because he says that I don't find anyone more qualified. As far as the other devatas are concerned, they are all vimohita. They are all influenced by the material energy. Vimohita diya tava maya. They are all influenced by your material energy. Brahma deya tanubrita. And so therefore he says, you are the only person, you're the perfect teacher from whom I can receive knowledge. Okay. So in the purport is explained that how Sri Uddhava, however, being a pure devotee of the Lord, is determined to go back home, back to Godhead for eternal life, and is thus not at all interested in the sophisticated Vedic knowledge of the demigods. The material world is a gigantic prison whose inmates are subjected to birth, death, old age, and illusion, and a pure devotee has no desire to remain there, even as a first-class prisoner like the demigods. The Lord is Swadrisha, or one who reveals himself to his devotee. Thus, only the Lord himself, or his pure devotee, who faithfully repeats the Lord message, can take one beyond the material sky into the free atmosphere of the spiritual planets, where the liberated souls enjoy an eternal life of bliss and omniscience. Now, the next verse is the important verse, where Uddhava is giving 5 reasons why Krishna is the perfect teacher, perfect master. तस्माद् भवन्तमनवद्यमनन्तपारं सर्वज्ञमीश्वरमकुण्ठविकुण्ठधिष्ण्यं निर्विन्नधीरहमुहे वृजिनाभितप्तो नारायणं नरसकं शरणं प्रपद्ये.
Therefore, O Lord, feeling weary of material life and tormented by its distresses, I now surrender unto you because you are the perfect master. You are the unlimited, all-knowing Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose spiritual abode in Vaikuntha is free from all disturbances. In fact, you are known as Narayan, the true friend of all living beings.
Okay, so the purport is actually very nice. Maybe you can read that. So 5 reasons they're very nicely explaining.
No one can claim to be a self-made man because everyone works with the body and mind avoided by material nature. By the laws of the nature, there is always anxiety in material existence, and terrible tragedies periodically harass the conditioned souls. Here, Uddhava points out that only Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, is a proper master, friend, and shelter for the conditioned souls. We may be attracted by the good qualities of a particular man or demigod, but we may later discover discrepancies in that person's behavior. Therefore, Krishna is described as Anavadyam. There are no discrepancies in the personal conduct or character of the personality of Godhead. He is eternally faultless.
Okay, so this is the first reason why Krishna is the perfect master. Anavadyam.
Anavad.
Yes. Next.
We may faithfully serve a master, father, or demigod, but when it is time for us to receive our reward for faithful service, the master may die. Therefore, Lord Krishna is here described as Anantaparam, which indicates that he is not limited by time and or space. The word Anta indicates the termination of time, and Para indicates the spatial termination. Therefore, Anantaparam means that Lord Krishna is not limited by time or space, and thus will always dutifully reward his faithful servants.
Okay, so this is the second reason,
Anantaparam.
Anantaparam. So this is of course a very nice, somebody can prepare a nice presentation on this with Shastric examples and so many things. Next.
If we serve someone other than the personality of Godhead, our so-called master may forget our service or become ungrateful. Therefore, Lord Krishna is described here as Sarvagyam, omniscient. He can never forget the service of his devotee, and therefore he is never ungrateful. In fact, it is said that Lord Krishna does not remember the faults of his devotees, but only the sincere service they have rendered.
Okay, of course, we also discussed that Pastor Niranjan Maharaj, how Srila Prabhupada also reciprocated with the service. And of course, there are so many other examples also. We have example of Dukhi and so many other examples. The Lord always remembers the service. He never forgets. Right. There's a third reason, Sarvagya. Next.
Sarvagyam. Yeah, ahead. A further disadvantage in serving anyone besides Krishna is that when we are in danger, our master may not be able to protect us. If we take shelter of our nation, that nation may be destroyed in war. If we take shelter of our family, they may die. They may also die. And as described in the Vedic literature, even the demigods are sometimes defeated by the demons. But since Lord Krishna is described here as Ishvara or the supreme controller, there is no danger of his being overcome or even impeded by any other power. Thus, Lord Krishna's promise of protection to his devotee is eternally valid.
Eternally valid. So only Krishna can actually give protection, nobody else, because he is the only Ishvara. And the fifth one?
If we do not serve the personality of Godhead, we will not know the ultimate result of our service. But here Lord Krishna is described as Akuntha Vikuntha Dhishnam. Lord Krishna has an eternal abode called Vaikuntha, and that abode is never disturbed by anything. The faithful servants of Lord Krishna will certainly go back to Godhead, back home, for an eternal life of bliss and knowledge in the personal abode of the Lord. However, since even the demigods, and what to speak of insignificant human beings, are subject sooner or later to annihilation, what ultimate benefit can be derived from serving them?
Yes. So these are the 5 reasons which Uddhava is giving why Krishna is the perfect master, and that is the reason why he wants to get instructions from Krishna. Okay, read the rest also.
Uddhav describes his personal situation as Nirvinnadhi and Vrijinabhitaptaha. In other words, Sri Uddhav states that he is exhausted and discouraged by the contradictions and the anguish of material life. He has been forced, therefore, to become humble and surrendered to the lotus feet of Krishna, the personal friend of every living entity. In the material world, great man does not have time for insignificant men. But although the Lord is the greatest person, he sits in the heart of every living entity. Thus, he is the most merciful. Lord Krishna is the ultimate shelter of even Nara, or Lord's Purusha expansion, who creates the material world. The living entity is called Nara, and the source of his material situation is Nara, or Mahavishnu. The word Narayana indicates that even Mahavishnu finds his shelter in Krishna, who is certainly supreme. Although our consciousness is presently contaminated by sinful propensities, if we follow the example of Sri Uddhava and take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, everything can be rectified. Taking shelter of Krishna means taking shelter of devotional service to Krishna and obeying him. Lord Krishna demands this in Bhagavad Gita. And if we comply with the order of the Lord, our life can become fully auspicious and successful. Sooner than we expect, we may, by Krishna's mercy, enter the kingdom of God for an eternal life of bliss and knowledge.
Okay, so two nice statements. Although our consciousness is presently contaminated by sinful propensities, if we follow the example of Sri Uddhav and take shelter of the Supreme Personality of God Krishna, everything can be rectified. And then what does it mean to take shelter? Taking shelter of Krishna means taking shelter of devotional service to Krishna and obeying him. So then we can achieve success. Okay, so in this way, Uddhav, he requests the Lord to give him instructions because he is the perfect master to give instructions. And now the Lord begins to give instructions, and that is the famous Uddhav Gita, where all these wonderful instructions have been given. Okay, 19th verse. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Prayena Manuja Loke Lokatattva Vichakshanaha Samuddharanti Atmanam Atmaneva Shubhashayat.
The Supreme Lord replied, generally, those human beings who can expertly analyze the actual situation of the material world are able to raise themselves beyond the inauspicious life of gross material gratification.
Yes, so human beings who can expertly analyze the situation of this material world, then they can understand that how this material world is simply a place of miseries, and then one will try to get out of it. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, even if one has not received the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master, one can understand by direct and indirect analysis that the material world is not a place of enjoyment. Of course, we did that whole analysis, right? You remember? There is no happiness in the material world. We had a whole discussion, right? Right? So that's the analysis. Direct analysis means one's personal experience, and indirect analysis means hearing and reading of the experience of others. So both ways we understand that the material world is full of miseries. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Lord Krishna considered Uddhav to be more intelligent than even the demigods in heaven. Uddhav, however, was feeling discouraged, thinking himself unqualified to render devotional service to the Lord. But Uddhav was actually perfectly situated because he had achieved Lord Krishna as his personal spiritual master. Similarly, the members of the Krishna consciousness movement are guided by the instructions of the society's founder Acharya, Om Vishnupad Paraham Saparivacharya Shrotadar, Shrishimadesi Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. Just a side point, but this is the right address. Many times, devotees, they say Shri Srimad, His Divine Grace. But Shri Srimad itself means His Divine Grace. So therefore, you see, this is the right way of putting it. So when Shri Srimad is there, then no divine grace. And of course, you can hear in Prabhupada's, this what you say? Prem Dhwani. So you can hear Prabhupada also. So Prabhupada only says Shri Srimad, not His Divine Grace. And one devotee, he said, Shri Srimad, His Divine Grace. Krishna Kripamurti. All three are one only. So therefore, well, basically, that Shri Srimad means His Divine Grace. Srimad, one who is, Shri means the mercy. Yes, fortune, mercy. So therefore, but it's they're all synonymous. Shri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Krishna Kripa Murti, those three are synonymous. So any case, so just for our information. So at least Bhakti Vedanta students should not make mistakes. Therefore, a sincere member of the Krishna consciousness movement should never feel discouraged, but should rather count his blessings and do the needful to go back home, back to Godhead. In the material world, certain activities are auspicious and produce happiness, whereas other activities, being sinful, are inauspicious and cause unlimited suffering. Everyone who has not yet received the complete mercy of the bona fide Krishna conscious spiritual master should conclude by sharp intelligence that there is no happiness in ordinary material life and that real self-interest lies beyond the material platform. Srila Madhvacharya points out that even if one is expert not only in material knowledge but also in spiritual knowledge, one will enter into the darkness of ignorance if one neglects the association of the devotees of the Lord. Therefore, one should not misinterpret this verse in a way that minimizes the significance of the pure devotee spiritual master. One who is vichakshana or expert will eventually come to understand the difference between matter and spirit. Such a person will certainly recognize and appreciate a genuine spiritual master. One who is advanced in knowledge undoubtedly becomes humble, and thus an expert, advanced human will never neglect the lotus feet of the pure devotees of the Lord. 20. Atmano gururatmeva purushasya visheshatah yat pratyakshanumanabhyam shreyo savanuvindate.
An intelligent person, expert in perceiving the world around him and in applying sound logic, can achieve real benefit through his own intelligence. Thus, sometimes one acts as one's own instructing spiritual master.
Yes, so last verse and this verse, both the verses, the Lord is saying that by one's own analysis and by one's own logic, one can understand for oneself. Pratyaksha, by direct perception, and anumanabhyam, the application of logic. One can understand what is one's real shreya or the real benefit. One can understand. Therefore, in the previous purport, they mentioned that yes, by one's own logic understanding, one can try to understand, but that does not rule out the importance of accepting the bona fide spiritual master and receiving instruction. So this is useful, but of course it has its limitations because one is limited. One cannot get absolute knowledge simply by one's own endeavors. But at the same time, this also has some place in trying to understand the spiritual truths. Purport. As illustrated in this chapter with the conversation between King Yadu and the Avduta, a sensitive, reasonable person can acquire real knowledge and happiness simply by carefully observing the world around him. And that's what we will be reading now about the Avdut Brahman. So he is learning from his own experiences by seeing things around. Srila Jiva Goswami states in this connection, Gurva Anusarane Pravartaka iti artha. The knowledge acquired by one's own perception and intelligence leads one to appreciate the value of the representative of Lord Krishna. Okay, so by one's own perception, one understands to some degree, and through that understanding, one should actually appreciate the need for the representative of Lord Krishna. The word Shreyas in this verse indicates that one can advance in life through one's own intelligence. By good association, one should gradually come to understand one's eternal position as servant of Krishna, and then one becomes very eager to live in the company of other enlightened persons. Birds of feather flock together. The symptom of an enlightened servant of Krishna is that he is eager for the company of other such great souls. Thus, by one's sensitive and rational observation of this material world, one should come to appreciate the value of spiritual life in the association of devotees. Okay, so by one's own analysis, one should not think, now I don't require devotees. By my own understanding, I can achieve perfection. No. By one's own analysis, one should come to the understanding that I require the association of devotees in the spiritual master. That should be the purpose. 21.
One's sensitive and rational observation.
Yeah.
What is the import?
Thus, by one's sensitive and rational observation of this material world, one should come to appreciate the world.
What is exactly sensitive and rational mean?
Sensitive means with one's intelligence. With one's intelligence. Okay, rational intelligence, sensitive is with one's emotions, mind. Basically with one's mind and intelligence, sensitive and rational. With one's mind and intelligence, one should understand how the material world, what's the nature of the material world, so much miseries. So then one will understand the value of association. 21. Purushatve chamam dhira sankhya yoga visharada avistaram prapashyanti sarvashaktya upabhrimitam.
In the human form of life, those who are self-controlled and expert in spiritual science of Sankhya can directly see me along with all my potencies.
Yes, so those are Sankhya Yoga Visharada. Then they can understand the presence of the soul, they can understand the presence of the super soul. So that is what. So in the purport is mentioned, taking advantage of the experience of mortal life, the soul in human form may endeavor for immortality, and the human body is fully equipped to achieve this end. In such an elevated state, the soul is certainly well acquainted with the ordinary activities of animals such as eating and drinking. The human form of life is very significant because it affords us the opportunity to perfect our existence. The Sankhya system mentioned here is best illustrated by the instructions of Lord Kapila to his mother, Devhuti. So then they're talking about those instructions. The next paragraph, a spiritual master becomes bona fide by his full surrender to his spiritual master. But as explained in this chapter, one may also act as his own guru. This means that an intelligent and perceptive person can understand the nature of this world and his own limitations. Such a person then becomes very much inclined to associate with the pure devotees of the Lord and to receive the mercy of those who are advanced in Krishna consciousness. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Sankhya Yoga as described here refers to the rigorous intellectual progress of the Jnana Yoga system along with the devotion of Bhakti Yoga, which emphasizes the mercy of the lotus feet of the pure devotees. Okay. Lord Krishna is training Uddhav to see the Lord's personal form in the course of his daily experiences in the material world. Of course, the Lord has already spoken in Bhagavad Gita. He has given so many examples of how we can perceive him in daily experiences, like Rasam Apsukaunteya, Prabhasme Shashi Suryo, then Shabdake Paurusham Rishu. Yes, Balam Balamatam Chaham Buddhir Buddhimatam Asmi. Then yes, then this is 7th chapter. Then again in the 9th chapter there are some examples. Then again the 15th chapter there are examples. In the 15th chapter he is talking about aham Vaishwanaro Bhutva Pachami aham. So Krishna is digesting everything. So we can very easily understand, right? If Krishna doesn't digest, what will happen? So by our own experience, we can understand the presence of the Lord. Sarvasya chaham hridi sanvishto matta smritir jnanam apohanam. If Krishna doesn't give remembrance, then answering questions in the exam becomes very difficult. So in daily life, we can understand. We discussed that, no? Tamal Krishna Maharaj forgetting the key. So if Krishna gives forgetfulness, then who can do anything? So that's how even in daily life, one can understand the presence of the Lord. 22. Ekadvitri chatuspado bahupadastatapadaha bhavya santi pura shrishtas tasam me paurushi priya.
In this world, there are many kinds of created bodies, some with one leg, other with 2, 3, 4, or more legs, and still others with no legs. But of all these, the human form is actually dear to me.
Yes, the Lord is saying human form is very dear. Why the human form is very dear? Next verse is explaining. Atrama mrigayantyadha yukta hetubirishwaram griyamaner guner linger aghrayam anumanataha.
Although I, the Supreme Lord, can never be captured by ordinary sense perception, those situated in human life may use their intelligence and other faculties of perception to directly search for me through both apparent and indirectly ascertained symptoms.
Yeah, so this is the specialty of the human form of life, that they can use their intelligence, griyamane gunai, with perceiving intelligence, mind, senses. So with all this directly and indirectly, they can understand the presence of the Lord. So that is why the human form of life is more dear to the Lord than all the other forms, because of this higher form of intelligence. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the word yukta in this verse indicates those engaged in the regulative practice of Bhakti Yoga. The devotees of the Lord do not abandon their intelligence and become mindless fanatics as some fools think. Of course, Srila Prabhupada has written in Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter, 34th verse. What is the verse? Tadvidi Pranipan. That Prabhupada has written an important sentence. What's that? In this connection, important statement. Blind following and absurd inquiries both are condemned. So that is the same thing they're saying here. The devotees do not abandon their intelligence. So not just blindly following, they don't use their intelligence. No, they use their intelligence to understand what is right, what is wrong. They don't become simply mindless fanatics. Okay, so that is also not appreciated. The word mrigayanti or searching does not, however, indicate an unregulated or unauthorized process. If we are searching for the telephone number of a particular person, we look in the authorized telephone directory. Similarly, if we are searching for a particular product, we go to a specialized store where we are likely to find what we're looking for. Sri Jiva Goswami points out that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not a product of imagination, and thus we cannot whimsically imagine what the Lord might be. Therefore, to gain information about Lord Krishna, one must conduct a regulated search in the authorized Vedic scriptures. So one must use one's intelligence to find out what is authorized, what is not authorized, take knowledge from the right person. So for that, one must use one's intelligence. So therefore, it's not mindless. So that is the important point. And the next paragraph again, the words Griyamaner Gune indicate the rational and intellectual faculties of the human brain. All of these can be used to directly and indirectly perceive the personality of Godhead. Indirectly, one may experience the Lord through his creation. Since we are experiencing this world through our intelligence and senses, we may conclude that our own intelligence must have a creator, and that creator is therefore supremely intelligent. Thus, through simple logic, any sane person can understand that the Supreme Personality of God is controlling everything. Of course, Srila Prabhupada, he used so much of logic within his arguments. So much of simple logic Prabhupada used. And that's how he could defeat even the biggest of scientists by using simple logic. Yesterday, when I was hearing a lecture, Prabhupada is saying, if Einstein thinks he's so intelligent, then why is he not able to create another Einstein? Right. So if he thinks that he has such a wonderful brain by which he can do so many wonderful things, then why cannot he create another Einstein? All right. So that's how Srila Prabhupada used simple logic to establish the presence of the Supreme Lord. And then one may also directly perceive the Lord through chanting and hearing his holy names and glory, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu. So in this way, one has to use everything. One has to use one's senses, mind, intelligence, logic, perception, and ultimately, of course, the mercy of the Guru and the Supreme Lord to come to an understanding of the Supreme. And so, to give that understanding of how even through one's direct and indirect perceptions of this world, one can learn so much. For that, now the Lord is going to narrate the story of the Avadut Brahman and King Yadu and the 24 Gurus. Okay, so it starts with the 24th verse. Good. 24 Gurus, 24th verse. Atrapya udharati rantimam itihasam puratanam avadhutasya samvadam yador amita tejasa.
As regards sages cite a historical narration concerning the conversation between the greatly powerful King Yadu and an Avadut.
So that's as a sense purport. Lord Krishna will narrate this story to show Uddhav how rational intelligence can be used in Bhakti Yoga to acquire Vedic knowledge, and how ultimately an intelligent person will come to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it just reminds me of this pastime, Srila Prabhupada's pastime, which Giriraj Maharaj writes in his book. So when they were going to construct the Jew temple, so that time, so they had called the engineers and everyone, and they had said that, yes, sandy beach. So the foundation must be some 20 to 30 feet. And then Giriraj Maharaj asked Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada says, no, only 2-3 feet will be sufficient. So Giriraj Maharaj is saying, what is this? Those professional people are saying 20-30 feet. Prabhupada is saying 3 feet. Now whom to follow? It was a big dilemma. whether to follow the professionals or to follow a spiritual master. So then they called one soil expert. And the soil expert came, they got one drilling machine. And then as they started drilling, they just drilled 2-3 feet and there was hard rock. The drilling machine got stuck up. So then, of course, Giraj Maharaj was very happy because now he could safely follow his spiritual master. But then still Giraj Maharaj was curious to know how Srila Prabhupada knew. He was not a soil expert or engineer or anything like that. How did he know? So when Giraj Maharaj asked Srila Prabhupada, what Srila Prabhupada said? Oh, I saw those other buildings are being constructed in the area. I saw their foundation is only 2-3 feet. Simple logic. There was nothing complicated about it. But that's how Srila Prabhupada was so observant. So simple logic. So that's how, just through simple logic, also one can learn so many things. Of course, Srila Prabhupada derived so many things actually, just by seeing things around. You know that pastime of the bird droppings, no? The bird droppings, as Prabhupada is going on the morning walk, Prabhupada is asking, what do you learn from this? They couldn't understand. What Prabhupada said? So they're attached to this tree, therefore they're staying here and passing stool here. Yes. So like that, so many things simply based on observation and logic. And now that can be used in Krishna consciousness. And that's what Krishna wants to teach here through this pastime. 25. Avadutam dviyam kanchich charantam makuto bhayam kavim niriksha tarunam yadhu papracha dharmavet.
Maharaj Yadu once observed a certain Brahmana Avdut who appeared to be quite young and learned, wandering about fearlessly. Being himself most learned in spiritual science, the king took the opportunity and inquired from him as follows.
Okay, so now Yadu is inquiring. Shri Yaduruvacha kuto buddhiriyam brahman akartu suvisharada yama sadhya bhavalokam vidvams charati balavat.
Sri Jadu said, O Brahmana, I see that you are not engaged in any practical religious activity, and yet you have acquired a most expert understanding of all things and all people within this world. Kindly tell me, sir, how did you acquire this extraordinary intelligence, and why are you traveling freely throughout the world behaving as if you are a child?
So that's the question of Yadu. How did you get all this practical knowledge, even though you're simply wandering around like a small child? 27. Prayo dharmartha kameshu vivitsayam cha manava hetuneva samihanta ayusho yashasa shriya.
Generally, human beings work hard to cultivate religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and also knowledge of the soul. And their usual motive is to increase the duration of their lives, acquire fame, and enjoy material opulence.
Okay, so that is what common people, dharma, artha, kama, and then they want to achieve increased duration of life, fame, material opulence. That is what most people want. 28. Tvam tu kalpa kavir daksha subhago amrita bhashana na karta neha se kinche jadon matta pishachavat.
You, however, although capable, learned, expert, handsome, and most eloquent, are not engaged in doing anything, nor do you desire anything. Rather, you appear stupefied and maddened as if you are a ghostly creature.
So he has all abilities. He is Tvam tu kalpa, kavi, daksha, subhaga, amrita bhashana. So he has all these qualities, but still na karta, he's not doing anything and he's jada unmatta pishachavat. So that's why King Yadu is surprised. Why like this? Even though qualified, you're not doing anything. Simply lying down on the side of the road. Okay. So anyway, in the purport, second paragraph, the followers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu simultaneously cultivate their own Krishna consciousness and strenuously endeavor in missionary work to help others become Krishna conscious. Often foolish persons deride the devotees by saying, "Why don't you get a job?" They think that one who is sincerely endeavoring for spiritual enlightenment and who is also enlightening others is not doing anything practical. Foolish materialists will pay millions of dollars to extend their lives by a few weeks or months in the hospital, but they do not appreciate someone endeavoring for eternal life. There is no actual logic in material life. Hmm. The act of trying to enjoy without Krishna is in itself the culmination of irrationality, and thus we cannot expect to find anything ultimately rational or logical in a materialistic life devoid of Krishna consciousness. Many devotees of Krishna come from wealthy, learned, and influential families and they take to Krishna consciousness not to perfect their lives, and certainly not due to lack of opportunity for material advancement. Although sometimes persons in material distress approach the Supreme Lord for help in material life, a real devotee of Lord Krishna voluntarily gives up all types of material enjoyment, knowing that nothing but love of Krishna and service to his lotus feet are the actual perfection of life. 29. Janeshu dhyamaneshu kamalobhadavagnina na tapyase agnina mukto gangambastha ibadvipa.
Although all people within the material world are burning in the great forest fire of lust and greed, you remain free and are not burned by that fire. You are just like an elephant who takes shelter from a forest fire by standing within the water of the Ganges river.
Right. So he's saying that all people they are running after this lust, kama, lobha, davagni. But you're not at all affected by this fire, just like the elephant taking shelter of the Ganges. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that within the Ganges flow great currents of water capable of extinguishing a blazing fire. If an elephant maddened by sex desire stands within the Ganges, its powerful cooling currents extinguishes lust and the elephant becomes pacified. Similarly, ordinary human beings trapped in the cycle of birth and death are constantly harassed by the enemies of lust and greed, which never allow the mind to be completely peaceful. But if following the example of the elephant, one situates oneself in the cooling waves of transcendental bliss, then all material desire will soon be extinguished and one will become Shanta or peaceful. Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Ataiva Shanta. Cooling waters of Krishna consciousness. Huh? And that is what the Acharyas are saying. So we don't have experience as elephants, no? I don't know, maybe we were elephants in the previous time. But that is what is being said, that the elephant, huh? Yes, that's one of the things the Avadut Brahman will tell in the how the elephant is captured. Yes. So yes, that's how the elephant is captured, because of the skin. Yes. And so the lust is basically pacified by the cooling waters of the Ganges. And so what are the cooling waters of the Ganges compared to? Transcendental bliss, Krishna consciousness. So Yadavadi Mama Chitta Krishna Padaravinde. So that is Chitta Krishna Padaravinde. That's the cooling waters for the lust. 30. Tvam hi na prichatam brahman atmanya ananda karanam bruhi sparsha vihinasya bhavata kevalatmanaha.
O Brahmana, we see that you are devoid of any contact with material enjoyment and that you are traveling alone without any companions or family members. Therefore, because we are sincerely inquiring from you, please tell us the cause of the great ecstasy that you are feeling within yourself.
So, no enjoyment, no friends, no one, but still you're so happy. So, Shyamsundar Prabhu writes in his book, Chasing Rhinos with the Swami. So, in the initial days when they saw Srila Prabhupada, when Srila Prabhupada was lecturing, they could not understand much philosophy, right? They didn't get attracted to philosophy. But what they got attracted to was Srila Prabhupada himself. That was the main attraction for them. And one of the attractions which he writes is, they saw that everyone is running after material things and they think that that is happiness. And here there is this Swamiji who does not have anything material and yet he is so happy and satisfied. That is what attracted them to Srila Prabhupada, because that's what they were seeing all around and that is what they were frustrated. But here he is a person with no material possessions, no money, nothing at that point of time. And yet Srila Prabhupada was totally satisfied and happy. And that's why they became curious to know, how is this possible? Just like here. So the king is curious. How this person is nothing. No friends, no family, no relatives, no material things, nothing. Still, he's in great ecstasy. So how is it possible? So that's a natural question that comes. And the purport they're saying, one who has realized the Supreme Person is satisfied to always carry the personality of Godhead within his heart as his constant companion. Unless one has realized that Krishna is one's only true friend and that Krishna is within one's heart, one will remain attached to the temporary relationships of the material worlds. So, to the degree one has that realization, Bhukta Ramyakavadasam Sarvalokamesham, to that degree there can be Shanti, one can become peaceful because one is not attached to anything material. As long as one is attached to material, then Shochati Kankshati, that is the nature of material attractions. But once one has given up those and one is simply attached to Krishna, then everything becomes peaceful. 31. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Yadunaivam Mahabhago Brahmanyena Sumedasa Prishta Sabhajita Praha Prashraya Vanatvam Dvija.
Lord Krishna continued, the intelligent king Yadu, always respectful to the Brahmanas, waited with bowed head as the Brahmana, pleased with the king's attitude, began to reply.
Okay, so the Avadut was very respectful. Prashraya, bowed head. He then began to reply. Okay, so now the Avadut is beginning to speak. Shri Brahmano Vacha Santi me Guravo Rajan Bahavo Buddhyupashritaha Yato Buddhim Upadaya Mukto Tami Hatan Shruno.
The Brahmana said, my dear king, with my intelligence I have taken shelter of many spiritual masters. Having gained transcendental understanding from them, I now wander about the earth in a liberated condition. Please listen as I describe them to you.
The word Buddhi Upashrita in this verse indicates that the Brahmana spiritual masters did not directly speak to him. Instead, he learned from them by his intelligence. All living entities who are inimical to Lord Krishna glorify useless material things and spend their lives trying to lord it over the material objects they falsely worship. It reminded me of a lecture of Srila Prabhupada, where Srila Prabhupada talks about nature study. 2-3 lectures Prabhupada speaks about nature study and how throughout the Shastras there are so many things which the Shastras are taking from nature, using them as analogies, just like we saw this example of the elephants. So similarly, what other examples are there? Okay, the sky and the air, cow and calf, sun and the cloud. Okay, weeds, and then okay, that caterpillar, yes, fear of the caterpillar. And then the Shastras constantly give examples of the life of the hog and the dog and the camel and the ass. So many things to learn. So Prabhupada is explaining this in one lecture, nature study. Simply by studying nature, one can learn so many things. And the Shastra is taking so many examples. And that's how the Brahmana also, he has learned so many things simply by the study of nature. Actually, Shivram Maharaj in his book puts them under the category of Shiksha Gurus. Because he's getting Shiksha from them. He's getting some teaching, na? So therefore he says, now I shall explain to you about my 24 Gurus. Where? Yes, instructing spiritual master. That's good. So text 33 to 35 is a list of the 24 Gurus. Somebody just read the translation.
O king, I have taken shelter of 24 Gurus, who are the following. The earth, air, sky, water, fire, moon, sun, pigeon, and python. The sea, moth, honeybee, elephant, and honey thief. The deer, the fish, the prostitute Pingala, the Kurara bird, and the child, and the young girl, arrow maker, serpent, spider, and wasp. My dear king, by studying their activities, I have learned the science of the self.
Yes. So these are the list of the 24 gurus. And now he explains one by one. Okay. Next verse. Please listen, O son of Marajyati, O tiger among men, as I explained to you what I've learned from each of these gurus. Okay, so now he begins one by one. 37. Bhuter akramyamanopi dhiro deva vashanuge tad vidvan na chalen margad anvashiksham kshiter vratam.
A sober person, even when harassed by other living beings, should understand that his aggressors are acting helplessly under the control of God, and thus he should never be distracted from progress on his own path. This rule I have learned from the earth.
Right. So what he learned from the earth? Tolerance. So how to become dhira, sober person, even though there could be so many bhute akramyamana, those are doing akraman, those are attacking, harassing, so many people may be doing that. But still, how to become dhira in spite of having all these distracting factors or aggressors, those who are creating trouble. So one has to learn tolerance. Hmm. So how to increase one's tolerance? How to increase? Continue. Continue the process despite inconveniences. Yes, that's the definition of tolerance. Hmm? Right. So one of them, yes, one of the ways is to accept that ultimately the Lord's mercy, the Lord has something to teach me. And so therefore, when one understands ultimately the Lord is the Supreme Father, He's giving, we had that whole discussion, right? Happiness, distress ultimately are given by the Lord. So when one understands this, then one can tolerate.
Based on one's previous karma, basically.
Yes. Yes, everything is happening on the basis of one's own previous karma. So why to blame anybody else? Something else?
Like here, instead here, everybody is acting under force of power of God. So just like we are suffering, he is suffering actually. So honestly, we did not become angry upon another person who is suffering himself.
Yes. So don't become angry on the instrument of your karma. So somebody is troubling, he is only instrument of my own karma. So there's therefore no point in blaming others. So who's the good example for this? Yes, Dharma and King Parikshit. So when King Parikshit is asking, who's the cause of your trouble? So he says, there's no this philosophy, that philosophy, but doesn't point out to anyone. So yes, so that is how we can increase the level of tolerance when we understand. Of course, and then we see,
So one thing is that is instrument of karma. One more thing is we've seen that he's also suffering actually because of his own conditioning. Instead of we becoming angry, he should become pity upon other person also.
Right. Yes. So he's also acting under superior forces. Yes. Okay. So the
third verse of Shikshashtakam, which is the doorway to higher realms of consciousness.
Correct.
So it's inevitable if we want to further.
Yes. In this material world, everyone is going to be taught tolerance. One will be forced. Otherwise, living in this material world itself will become difficult if one does not learn to tolerate. And what to speak of in the association of devotees. Okay, say in the mic, you asked a very profound question.
Tolerance. Tolerance is a quality of adjusting our intelligence, like we are all learning here. That we have to adjust the intelligence, it's my karma, or it's a level of our purity where we can actually practice that.
What do you think?
I feel it's a purity, and it will surely come through intelligence, but it will take lot of time also, because who can अभी किसी को 2 चप्पल मारो तो हालत खराब हो जाएगा. Means I'm really saying, means tolerance is not easy thing.
Correct. So see, actually you answered your own question. See, basically, initially, how do we tolerate? Initially, it's intellectual advancement only. I mean, intellectual adjustment. So initially, yes, we have to understand all this. Then intellectually, we have to understand, okay, this is my karma, what to do. So it is quite external. We are trying to adjust our mind and intelligence to understand the Shastric truths and somehow tolerate. But then, when one gets purified, then the actual tolerance of the soul becomes manifest. Then it becomes natural. Just like Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur didn't have to make some intellectual adjustment to tolerate. It was just natural for him, Prahlad Maharaj. And therefore we find on that platform, then Haridas Thakur, he is feeling pity for those people who are beating him. Correct? So that's the level of tolerance. So that comes by grace. When a person becomes purified, then the natural qualities of the soul become manifest. So that comes by grace. So, but initially sadhana bhakti, everything means we're trying to force ourselves to practice something, right? So initially, yes. So initially, that's why we're studying all this. So we're studying all this so that at least we can intellectually try to understand and convince ourselves. That's also required initially because it's not natural. But then gradually, as we get purified, then it should become natural.
Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his song, he's telling Vriksha Sama Kshama Guna Koribe Sadhan. So that's a practice. So practice can be at level of thoughts, level of words, and level of actions. So actions can be stopped, then words, and then thoughts. So it's a gradual process. And Param Bhakti Prem Maharaj was explaining this verse here. So he was telling that there are 4 levels of this tolerance. So first is to you forgive. Forgive and then forget. And then forgive, forget, and serve that person. Korive palan. So like that there are depths. Earlier we may do like this, you don't do act anything. That is one level of tolerance.
Correct.
But no, not harboring. So next verse is saying pratihimsa teji. So that is another level of tolerance. So that way it is practical action actually.
Yes, that's correct.
Of our actions, then words, and then thoughts.
Correct.
That's what purity means. Thoughts.
Correct. Yes, that's most difficult. At the level of thoughts, and then ultimately for it to become natural, that will of course take time as one gets purified. But at least we can begin by trying to control our words and actions. Okay. Okay, next. 38. Shashvat parartha sarveha pararthaikanta sambhavah sadhu shiksheta bhubritto naga shishya paratmatam.
A saintly person should learn from the mountain to devote all his efforts to the service of others and to make the welfare of others the sole reason for his existence. Similarly, as the disciple of the tree, he should learn to dedicate himself to others.
Okay, so what to learn from the mountain? Yes, living for others. Parartha. Para-artha, living for the benefit of others. So the mountain is giving so many things. So the purport is explaining what all the mountain gives. And so that is what one can learn from the mountain. So compassion to others, and just like in the well-known pastime of Dadichi, when Dadichi was asked for his bones. So initially, of course, he sort of tests the devatas by saying, oh, you don't understand how much pain is there in giving the body. But then later what he says? Later he says, oh, what's the use of this body? Ultimately, this body is going to be eaten by the jackals and the worms and all this. So what is the use of this body? So better to use the body for the welfare of others. So that's how one should understand that it's best to use the body for the welfare of others, because anyways it's temporary and it's going to be destroyed.
Welfare of others, many times some, if we have seen in Indian tradition or Indian history, some saintly people helping some karmi people also. I means going through austerity in their life. Like example, like somebody is sitting in the train, and then some karmi comes and then he wants to sit there, so then they may stand up, and then they allow to them to sit. So here the devatas, they want to kill Vitrasura. So this sometimes perplexes us. We always try to keep Krishna consciousness help. We want to help in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, we always try to discuss why we should help that person. So how to understand this thing, this fact?
Okay, if you take that pastime of the devatas going to the Dichi Rishi and that, so now that is whose instruction? That is directly Lord's instruction. And Dadichi also knows it. So therefore, he was only joking or testing the devatas. That is all what he was doing. He knew that this is Lord's instruction, and therefore he was ready to give. And so that is the ultimate purpose. So therefore, ultimately for us, how we do benefit to others is based on Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. It is not a mental concoction. So now, we do have this discussion, even in Bhakti Shastri classes, we have this discussion, isn't it? That if a person is drowning in the water, what should a devotee do? You see a person drowning, what should a devotee do? I think so everyone knows the answer, right?
Now the answer should be advanced.
Okay, so you already know the answer, so tell the answer. बोलो जल्दी बोलो ना, क्या problem है?
You should protect, na bro.
We should protect, na?
Yes. Yes. No, no. We do, what is the condition? We do not know swimming.
No, okay. If you know swimming,
yes.
If you know swimming, then what you'll do?
If nobody is there, then we should protect, Prabhuji.
But then why you want to interfere in the person's karma? If it's his karma to drown, why you want to interfere?
No, we know that we are also responsible. Means he can be made devotees tomorrow.
Oh, but what if he does not become devotee?
Still, Prabhuji, from my side, he should be protected because.
No, it's not my side and your side. You speak on base of Guru Sadhu Shastra.
Human life is important, and we are also responsible if some sin is happening in front of us. Means.
अरे sin नहीं है, वो डूब रहा है. Sin कहाँ पर है?
Means not doing one's dharma here.
Not which dharma you're talking about?
This is surely material dharma.
Then we are on spiritual platform. Why are you talking about material dharma? अरे बोलो क्या डिस्कशन हो गया आपका? आप बोल रहे बहुत डिस्कशन होगी, कुछ तो बताओ ना क्या? हाँ, बहुत लंबा हो गया, लेकिन उसका लंबा डिस्कशन, उसका सार क्या है वो पता नहीं क्या फायदा. There cannot be differences. Shastra means one.
Doing for the pleasure of Krishna, Prabhuji.
Okay, give it.
Once devotees doing Rath Yatra, there was some fire in the building, and the devotees removed the Ratha's carpet, and they saved them. They jumped in the carpet. Next day, headlines came that Harish and devotees saved the people. Prabhupada appreciated the act of devotees in that case. That is acting, was helping others to become Krishna conscious in one way. But he appreciated the activity of devotees in using intelligence to save the people.
All right. So therefore, this question was asked by His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj to Srila Prabhupada. And so Srila Prabhupada's answer was, we have no business interfering with others' karma. We have no business. So therefore, it is not our business. At the same time, if we are able to save, we should save for the purpose of loka vichar. For that purpose, for the purpose of loka vichar, we can save, if we are capable of doing that. And the pastime which you told, I don't know about Rath Yatra pastime, but this happened in Melbourne, where the devotees were staying in one building, and the building beside the temple, there was some fire. There were only lady devotees in the temple. The men had all gone out for Sankirtan. And the lady devotees, they helped to save those people. And that came in the newspaper. And that Srila Prabhupada appreciated that. Again, what was the purpose? Loka Vichar. So that is, for that purpose, we can do it. So obviously, it should be calculated risk. If I don't know swimming and I try to save, वो भी डूब जाएगा, हम भी डूब जाएंगे. तो क्या फायदा? No, not like that. So it's a calculated risk. So if I think that I'm able to do it, then yes. So again, the same principle. Same principle. So if I understand that I can help this person and not get into too much of trouble, so then I can try. So
We can, Krishna also says, no, Janak Maharaj following. So that is for setting example.
yeah, setting example. Yeah, similar, Loka Vichar. So for the purpose of preaching, otherwise people may say, oh, these Hare Krishnas are very hard-hearted. And therefore now also we see, now, whenever there is some natural disaster,
Corona.
yes, corona and earthquakes and yes, so many things. So then devotees are going and helping. So one of the main reasons is the same principle, Loka Vichar. That is the and of course, not only just Loka Vichar, of course, when Prasadam is distributed, then there is a spiritual benefit also.
Now, if some devotee is drowning, then
now if a devotee is drowning, there's no question for that. For that, there is no question. No, Ladini Mataji was shot, na? Yes, she could not see the offense. She could not see the offense towards the devotees. Yes.
Devotee is drowning and then again calculated risk means, or what we should do? We should try and die and then he should be saved.
No, not foolish, not foolishly. So if I don't know swimming at all, then where is the question of saving? There is no question only. So then that case, then I have to call for help. Yes, I have to call for help, obviously. क्या हो गया प्रहलाद प्रभु, क्या हो गया? You seem to be quite excited.
मतलब हमारे धर्म के अनुसार माता जी को हम बचा नहीं सकते और कैपेसिटी नहीं कि आजू बाजू कोई भी नहीं है.
So see, actually, so that's what I'm saying. So it has to be a calculated risk, because actually there was one incident recently when there was a problem with one lady. She was about to faint, this, that, something. And one of our brahmacharis went to hell. And he tried to catch her and things like that. So now he had good intentions. It became a very big issue. That why did this brahmachari do that? Right. So, I don't want to get into any details, but this was with a very prominent preacher, and but he landed into such serious trouble. Oh, it was very terrible. So therefore, one has to be extremely careful about all these things. One has to take into consideration all these factors. And so therefore, ultimately, we are dependent on God-given intelligence at that point of time. But anyway, even logically and intellectually, we have to take into consideration these different factors. Because first of all, I have to save myself and my own Krishna consciousness. Right? That's an important consideration. And so therefore, it has to be a calculated risk.
Actually, I had gone for one yatra, traveling Nashik. There was one young girl who was blind, fully blind. So she was crossing the road, and we are also crossing the road. And we saw she was just about to come in front of bus. So then no one was there. We just little bit pushed her, and then connected that girl to some other person, take him away like that. but I don't know means what to do.
Yeah, that's appropriate. So that's appropriate. So we have to do something like that. Yes. Huh? But of course, there were higher powers acting in that pastime. Hmm. Yeah, so once he gave the hand, then he got caught. So something like that can happen even now. Yes. So that's what I'm saying. Ultimately, Krishna has to give the right intelligence. But one has to be careful. Okay, fine. So that's what we learned from the mountain, how to help others. Okay, we'll do till 40 and take the break. Pranavrityaiva santushen munir nevendriya priye jnanam yatha nanashyeta navakiryeta vanmanaha.
A learned sage should take his satisfaction in the simple maintenance of his existence and should not seek satisfaction through gratifying the material senses. In other words, one should care for the material body in such a way that one's higher knowledge is not destroyed, and so that one's speech and mind are not deviated from self realization.
Okay, so here he's not learning from anything, he's just making a point here. Huh? No. So he's learning from the learned sage. No, it's not like that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just an instruction, or maybe something is coming in the future. Oh, from prana. Okay, that's what they're writing in the purport also. A wise man does not absorb his consciousness in the forms, flavors, aromas, and sensations of material sense gratification, but rather accepts activities such as eating and sleeping simply to keep body and soul together. Okay, so prana, the consciousness. Yes. Okay. So anyway, we had enough discussion on this simple living, not using. We had the discussion, no? Prana, artha. No, not prana. That we had the discussion from the 7th canto. Wealth and prestige, not unnecessarily accumulating wealth and prestige for sense gratification. So we had that whole discussion. So this is similar. So the second paragraph, it says, is a duty of a devotee of the Lord to avoid seeing any object as separate from Krishna, because that is illusion. A gentleman will never try to enjoy the property of another gentleman. Similarly, if one sees everything in relation to Krishna, there is no scope for material sense gratification. But if one sees material objects separate from Krishna, then one's material enjoying propensity is immediately aroused. Okay, and 40. Vishayesha vishan yogi nana dharmeshu sarvatah guna dosha vyapetatma na vishajjeta vayuvat.
Even a transcendentalist is surrounded by innumerable material objects, which possess good and bad qualities. However, one who has transcended the material good and evil should not become entangled even when in contact with the material objects. Rather, he should act like a wind.
Yeah, so this is what he has learned from the winds. So wind, even it may pass through some a flower garden or may pass over some garbage, but the wind is not affected. The wind just carries the fragrance. So that's what is being explained here. Sometimes the wind blows through beautiful forests carrying fragrance of fruits and flowers. At times, wind may fuel a fire that burns the same forest to ashes. The wind, however, being fixed in its own nature, remains neutral in both its auspicious and inauspicious activities. Similarly, in this material world, we will inevitably face both pleasing and disgusting situations. If, however, we remain fixed in Krishna consciousness, we will not be disturbed by the inauspicious, nor will we become attached to the materially auspicious. To the degree one becomes attached to the good situation and becomes happy in that situation, one will have to suffer when one goes through the bad situation. So therefore, the lesson is one has to be equipoised, neutral, not rejoicing too much. Prabhupada tells that instant of a person who got a lottery of some few crores of rupees, and he was so happy, he was dancing, got a heart attack and died. So if one is too jubilant, then that's a problem. So in both cases, the devotee fixes his mind upon Lord Krishna and experiences transcendental bliss. Similar instruction in the second chapter. What Krishna says? No, regarding the Sthita Prajna. So yes, but before this is Anudvega. No, I'm forgetting the verse. No, regarding Sukha and Dukkha. Sukheshu Anudvigna Mana, Dukkeshu Vigata Spriha. Yes. So there Srila Prabhupada is explaining. So when a devotee goes through a happy situation, he thinks that is the grace of the Lord. And when he goes through distressful situation, he thinks that is also the grace of the Lord. And so therefore in both situations, he remains equipoised. So one who is attached to materially pleasing forms, tastes, smells, sounds and touches will also be repelled by the opposite in each category. Thus finding himself surrounded by innumerable good and bad things, the materialist is constantly disturbed. When the wind blows in many directions at once, the atmosphere becomes agitated. Similarly, if the mind is constantly attracted and repelled by material objects, there will be such mental disturbance that it will be impossible to think of the absolute truth. Therefore, one should learn from the blowing wind the art of moving through the material world without attachments. Right. Yes. Correct. Right. And the yes. Correct. Yes. Yes. So they're very important. So we were discussing in another place that example is there of the hurricane. We were telling Prabhupada is writing the hurricane of the material world, but still one is not affected. ठीक है. Hare Krishna. Okay, we'll take a 10 minutes break. देख लो कितने वीडियो नहीं है अब देख Some people put photos Okay. So, but they've woken up now or no? Okay, ठीक है, आगे बढ़ते हैं. About 30 verses more. पार्थिवेष्विह text 41. पार्थिवेष्विह देहेषु प्रविष्टस्तद्गुणाश्रयः गुणेन युज्यते योगी गन्धेर्वायुरिवात्मदृक्.
Although a self-realized soul may live in various material bodies while in this world, experiencing their various qualities and functions, he is never entangled. Just as the wind, which carries various aromas, does not actually mix with them.
So this again about the wind only. But this is in reference to various bodies. Explains various qualities. It's never entangled. The wind is covered by different. So Krishna conscious person is always aware that is different from this temporary body. He experiences the various transformations of body, childhood, adolescence, adulthood, old age. But although he experiences pain, pleasures, qualities, and functions of that body, Krishna conscious person never thinks that he is the body. He always understands the eternal spirit soul. Okay. That's again about the wind. Okay, 42. अंतर्हितश्च स्थिरजङ्गमेषु ब्रह्मात्मभावेन समन्वयेन व्याप्त्याव्यवच्छेदम् असङ्गमात्मनो मुनिर्नभस्त्वं विततस्य भावयेत्.
A thoughtful sage, even while living within a material body, should understand himself to be a pure spirit soul. Similarly, one should see that the spirit soul enters within all forms of life, both moving and non-moving, and that the individual souls are thus all-pervading. The sage should further observe that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Super Soul, is simultaneously present within all things. Both the individual soul and the super soul can be understood by comparing them to the nature of the sky. Although the sky extends everywhere and everything rests within the sky does not mix with anything, nor can it be divided by anything.
Okay, so this is about the sky. Similar to the wind, just like the sky does not mix with anything. Similar to the wind. So similar here, the spirit soul enters into different forms, but then the spirit soul always remains different from the body, both the soul and the super soul. Okay, they're giving description about the soul. And they're quoting that verse from the 9th chapter. Yata kasho sthito nityam vayu sarvatra goma. Okay. Fine. 43. तेजवन्नमयैर्भावैर्मेघाद्यैर्वायुनेरिते न स्पृश्यते नभस्तद्वत् कालसृष्टेर्गुणैः पुमान्.
Although the mighty wind blows clouds and storms across the sky is never implicated or affected by these activities. Similarly, the spirit soul is not actually changed or affected by contact with the material nature. Although the living entity enters within a body made of earth, water, and fire, and although he is impelled by the three modes of nature created by eternal time, his eternal spiritual nature is never actually affected.
Okay, so this is also about the sky and the wind. Now, this discussion takes place in the 5th canto, isn't it? Jad Bharat and Maharaj Raghuna. So there, Maharaj Raghuna is giving the example of the rice in the pot and the fire. So when the fire is there, so first the pot gets heated, and when the pot gets heated, the rice and milk when the pot get heated. Similarly, so what is the pot compared to? Body. Yes, the gross body, and the milk and yes, the soul. So by logic, if something happens to the body, the soul also should be affected. That is the logic he is giving. So then how it's refuted? What's the correct understanding? What?
So the matter, and one matter is affecting another matter, but soul is not matter. Soul is different from matter. So therefore, he says that I am not a thin, I am not a fat. I'm a soul. It never be affected.
Okay. But then at the same time, we observe if something happens to the body, then I feel. Ambul?
So it is said that like false ego identifies the soul with the body, with the senses. So that identification, through that identification, we are feeling some certain experiences we are getting.
Okay.
So, but that experience is still a material also, again.
Right.
It's a material.
So what's another analogy to explain this?
That Chandrama, like
What
a moon is a reflection in the water. It appears to be titillating.
Okay, fine. So why?
Because it's a pratibimba, but the moon is stationary there. But the reflection, so the soul's chitta, when it is attached to the body and false identification, it appears to be disturbed, but the soul is not disturbed.
Okay, so this, yes, this is one analogy. Another simple analogy Prabhupada gave: day-to-day life. Yes, Prabhupada gives this simple thing which anyone can understand about the car. So something happens to the car, person is affected, even though nothing happened to the person, but the person is affected because of attachment to the car. Because of attachment to the car. You heard that story, a real incident about the car, the boy and the father. The boy wrote something on the car. Sri Guru Prabhu knows, no? Give him the mic. Yeah. Wall. Wall nahi baba. Car. And then what happened? Okay, fine. Okay, so this is a good incident. It's a real life incident. It can be used in various places. One place we can use it is for this misidentification of the body, and we can also use it for effects of anger. For both these topics, it's a good story. So there was this. So this man had got a new car, brand new car, and so it was in the parking lot, and he had a small child. So small children, they don't understand things, ignorant. So the boy took something and he wrote something. He took a stone or something like that, and he was just playfully wrote something on the car. And then the father saw it. New car! And he got so angry. And he took some rod or stick and very severely beat the hand of the child. And as a result of that, so the child started crying. The crying didn't stop. It was going on crying. So took to the hospital, took X-ray. All these small child, you can imagine, the bones are so tender. So all these small bones of the fingers, multiple fractures. So multiple fractures, you can't put some screws and nuts and bolts and do anything, because they're all scattered, small fragments. So therefore, they said the only solution is you have to amputate the fingers. No option. So that's what they did. So after the operation was done, the small child came back to consciousness. Now again, he's ignorant, he doesn't understand anything. So he saw his two hands, one hand has fingers, another hand has no fingers. So he asked his father, Papa, when the fingers of this hand will grow? So when the father heard this, he felt so bad. What have I done to this small child? And so now again he got angry on himself. What have I done? And then he thought, who's the cause of this? The car. So in a fit of anger, he went to the car. And then when he went to the car, he saw what the child had written on the car. The child had written, I love you, Dad. And then the father felt even bad that for writing this, I love you, I have done this to my child. So he was so disgusted and frustrated with himself that he committed suicide. This was the result. Yes, this is a real instance. It came in the newspapers.
India or abroad, Prabhu?
India only, India. Abroad it cannot happen. Ah. And of course, parents also know, so they will not do anything like that. So, but the point is that yes. So why we were discussing this? Okay, the attachment. Attachment to the car, attachment to the body. Yeah, so it's the attachment that causes the body, the soul being affected by whatever happens to the body. So to the degree one is not on the bodily platform, then one is not affected. Like examples, so many examples. Those who are not affected. Okay, Rishabh, what happened? Okay, that's final stage.
Sanatan Goswami.
Sanatan Goswami, what happened? Okay, fine. Okay, so there were the boils and okay. Okay, Haridas Thakur not affected by the beating. Vasudev Dutt, he had what? Leprosy. Vasudev leper. Vasudev leper. He had leprosy. They're two different, Vasudev leper and Vasudev Dutt. Okay, Socrates, of course, he was a mundane philosopher. And of course, we have the best example in the Bhagavatam of
Jada
Jad Bharat. Parikshit Maharaj when? Okay, when I was hearing the Bhagavatam. Yes. So we have all these examples, and of course, we have examples from Prabhupada's life, definitely. So that is what is being said over here, that the soul is not affected, just like the wind is not affected by the clouds and the storms. So similarly, the living entity is not affected. In this regard, Srila Madhvacharya has pointed out that the individual living entity must struggle to revive his divine spiritual qualities. The living entity is part and parcel of the supreme entity called Krishna, and as such, the individual soul is also a reservoir of godly qualities. The personality of Godhead, however, automatically manifests these qualities without any hindrance, whereas the conditioned soul must struggle to revive such qualities. Thus, although both the personality of Godhead and the personality of the living entity are eternal and transcendental, the personality of Godhead is always supreme. By realizing all this with clear intelligence, the conditioned soul can rise to the spiritual platform. Okay, 44. Swacha prakritita snigdho madhuryastirtha bhurnanam muni punatya mitram ikshopasprisha kirtane.
O king, a saintly person is just like water because he is free from all contamination, gentle by nature, and by speaking creates a beautiful vibration like that of flowing water. Just by seeing, touching, or hearing such a saintly person, the living entity is purified, just as one is cleansed by contact with pure water. Thus, a saintly person, just like a holy place, purifies all those who contact him because he always chants the glories of the Lord.
Tirti kurvanti tirthani. So, saintly person is just like pure water. Apam mitram, just like water. Can also be read as aghana mitram, which means the saintly person purifies all living entities. Aga means sinful reactions. by accepting them as mitram or his personal friends and saves them from their sinful reactions. The conditioned living entity falsely identifies with his gross material body and subtle mind and thus falls from the platform of spiritual knowledge. So, anyway, in connection with this, how the saintly person, he takes all the sinful reactions, he purifies everyone. So, in that connection, you heard this pastime of Srila Prabhupada? Of one Mr. Bhattacharya who came all the way from Bangalore to meet Srila Prabhupada. Okay, continue.
Vrindavan, he came to Vrindavan. So he wanted to meet Prabhupada personally and talk with him. So when he met Prabhupada, he told that, no, Swamiji, don't you know that scripture says that when Guru is still living, when his deity is placed, so all the sins or reactions of the worshippers, he has to accept them. So why are you putting your deity here? Then Prabhupada said, that is the purpose for which I came, to help people be purified.
Right. Yes. So this Mr. Bhattacharya, I think Sanat Kumar Bhattacharya, or Sampat Kumar Bhattacharya. Sampat Kumar Bhattacharya. He came by plane all the way from Bangalore to Delhi and then came to Vrindavan. This is 1977. Those days, flight travel was not at all common. Especially domestic travel, though, was practically unknown. But this man came all the way from Bangalore to Delhi and then came to Vrindavan because he heard that Srila Prabhupada was very sick. And so he came to give some good advice, thinking that Srila Prabhupada didn't know about it. Because as we know, Krishna Balaram temple opened 1975 and Prabhupada's deity was on the altar. So he came to tell Srila Prabhupada that because your deity is on the altar, therefore you're getting all the sinful reactions of the people who offer respects and therefore you're suffering. He came to tell that. So he told, and Srila Prabhupada said, I know that. But I have come to take the sinful reactions of all the people. What could the man say? Finished. He came all the way from Bangalore. 5 minutes, everything finished. Then Srila Prabhupada asked him, so you have anything more to say? If that is your desire, what can I say, Swamiji? Finished. He went back. So that was Srila Prabhupada's compassion. And so Srila Prabhupada actually writes, you can check in Vedabase, there's a letter to Jadurani. I don't remember the exact year and this, but there's a letter to Jadurani, you can see. Srila Prabhupada is talking about first initiation, second initiation, then Srila Prabhupada says, right at the time of first initiation, the spiritual master takes all the sinful reactions of the disciple. And then he says, and then somebody may say, then why are you accepting so many disciples? And then Srila Prabhupada writes, for the sake of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement, I am ready to take all the sinful reactions and go to hell. Yes, this is correct. Yes. Yes. We read from a letter to Jadurani. Yes, but yeah, this is where. Okay, Vyas Puja offerings. Okay, yes, but that's what he wrote to Jadurani. Spiritual master accepts the sinful activities of his disciples from the first initiation. Perhaps I gave initiation very easily, but what can I do? I am ready to go to hell for the service of Lord Chaitanya. Where in the whole world is to be found such a magnanimous personality as Srila Prabhupada? New Vraj Mandal. This is Vyas Puja offering from New Vraj Mandal. Yeah, the actual letter is also there. Huh? Hmm.
You said like here it's mentioned that from first initiation.
Correct. Correct.
So
This
you mentioned something like history, like as many disciples for the purpose of giving initiation, as many people I can give initiation, like that. You mentioned something.
no, that is the other pastime.
No, now only you're mentioning that Prabhupada wanted to give initiation when he was asked.
No, I mentioned this only. Then the other pastime where we told about that Mr. Bhattacharya who came from Bangalore.
That I.
Ah. And this one. Oh. So that's what he's saying, na? Perhaps I gave initiation very easily, but what can I do? So he gave to so many devotees, no? But he's saying, what can I do? I did it for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement, and I'm ready to go to hell for that. So that is what is being mentioned here. Aghan Mitram. Saintly person purifies all living entities by accepting them as Mitram or his personal friend, saves them from their sinful reactions. So, and the saintly person is like water because he's free from all contamination. Gentle by nature, speaks. Madhurya, snigdha, madhurya, tirtha bhu, punati apam, mitram. Okay, fine. 45. Tejasvi tapasadipto dhurdarsho darabhajana sarvabhakshopi yuktatma nadatte malam agnivat.
Saintly persons become powerful by execution of austerities. Their consciousness is unshakable because they do not try to enjoy anything within the material world. Such naturally liberated sages accept foodstuffs that are offered to them by destiny. And if by chance they happen to eat contaminated food, they are not affected, just like fire, which burns up contaminated substance that are offered to it.
So the saintly person is like fire. He's like water, he's like fire, he can burn up contamination. So actually the same principle applies during initiation also, no? That's how he burns up all the sinful reactions, contamination of the living entities. So therefore the person also must be sufficiently spiritually purified. He must have that potency to take all the sinful reactions and burn them. Otherwise he himself will become affected. Of course, he does it as Krishna's representative, that's correct. So Krishna ultimately does it, but he does it as Krishna's representative. But definitely he also has to be qualified. Huh?
Oh, I heard that the spiritual master takes all the sins only after the second initiation. Is that not right?
You go to Veda base and you go to letters of Srila Prabhupada and you type initiation and you will get a dozen quotes. We just read one, na? Just now we read, na? This
yes, Prabhu.
Like that you'll find another dozen, you'll find. All the sinful reactions are taken by the spiritual master at the time of first initiation.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay. So, purport. The word udhara bhajana indicates that a saintly person eats only to keep body and soul together and not for sense gratification. One should eat palatable foodstuffs to maintain one's mind in a cheerful mood. However, one should not eat luxuriously because this will cause sex desire and laziness. Actually, I read Prabhupada's letters on these points. Prabhupada actually writes these things in his letters. Palatable means tasty and nourishing, nutritious, nourishing, and something which is well prepared is palatable. But luxurious means that which is very heavy, like Srila Prabhupada actually in his letters to devotees he has written, like anything which has a lot of protein, too much of cheese and sweets. So all these things which are difficult to digest, so all those are comes under this luxurious. Then that is what will happen when there's difficulty in digestion. Then it will, yes, opulent. So basically, it is based upon difficulty in digestion. Difficulty in digestion. So therefore, again, it cannot be generalized. Yes, for some people, some things may be easily digestible. But there are some things which are common for everyone, which are definitely digestible, like cheese, paneer, and too many sweets. So these definitely agitate the mind of everyone. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada in his letters to devotees, he has written these things. So a saintly person is always a perfect gentleman and is never greedy or lusty. Although Maya tries to defeat him by offering different material allurements, ultimately these attractive material features are themselves defeated by the spiritual power of a saintly person. Thus, one should never disrespect a spiritually advanced personality, but should worship him reverentially. To carelessly approach a Krishna conscious personality is just like carelessly approaching fire, which immediately burns if not handled properly. The Lord does not excuse mistreatment of a pure devotee. So the pure devotee is like fire. So fire, he can burn up contamination also, and somebody touches fire will get burnt himself also. So both the points are there. And of course, Chaitanya Charitamrita full of examples of offenses towards great devotees. So the pure devotee is like fire. So in that connection, so therefore the Shastras are also giving warnings that how one must be careful about from whom to accept invitations as devotees. So if you go to Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the Antya Leela, in the chapter on Raghunath Das Goswami, so where we know how Raghunath Das Goswami, he stops giving invitations to Mahaprabhu, and then Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami writes those verses. Yes, Vishayira Anna Kaila, Malina Hoeman, Malina Man Nahi, Krishnera Smaran. So in those verses, Srila Prabhupada quotes Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and gives 3 types of invitations according to the modes. Invitations in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So therefore, one should be very careful from whom one accepts invitations and from whom one eats. And I'm sure you definitely know the pastime of Srila Prabhupada and his disciples going to a life member's place, and then no, not the onion garlic thing. So they ate, probably, there was no onion garlic, it was proper prasad only. But then the next morning, no one awoke for Mangalarti. Srila Prabhupada asked his servant, where's everyone? The servant checked and said, Srila, they're all sleeping. Prabhupada said, pack up. We are leaving. The servant said, but Srila Prabhupada, we promised we'll stay for another 2-3 days. You just tell them we have some other engagement. This is because we have eaten food over here. Huh? Huh? So therefore one needs to be careful. What, you got that? What? No. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Vishayarana. Okay. Go to the pub. Yes. Go now. One should very carefully avoid associating with soldiers. The association changes the transcendental devotional service of Lord Krishna Sangha. Go to the next verse. Purport. Yes, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, sorry. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says 3 varieties of invitations. Mode of goodness, passion, ignorance. Invitation accepted from pure devotee, mode of goodness. Invitation accepted from a person who's pious, but materially attached, mode of passion. Invitation acts on a person who is materially very sinful, mode of ignorance. So 3 types of invitation. Mike.
Going to their house. Other thing is the sponsorship. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime is showing the sponsorship problem. The cooks were good. Brahman, like we have cooks, our devotee cooks. But the sponsorship is coming the problem. So here also, here are all ISKCON temples, there is this thing. So was it there at the Prabhupada times that you just chant once Hare
See,
Krishna mantra?
so if these days, if we have to accept sponsorship only from pure devotees, then how much we'll get?
Sponsorship, but not for eating. No, it can go to the deity.
No, but that's
Can
what.
go
No,
to the building.
So ultimately, everything, all sponsorship is used for so many different purposes, no? So it's not only for one thing. So therefore, in the present age, what can we do? And therefore, ultimately, we are not using it directly, na? Ultimately, even if we cook the bhoga and then we offer it, right? So then when Krishna accepts, he can neutralize everything. Because, so therefore, the sincerity of purpose is very important. The sincerity of purpose. So if we have that sincerity of purpose that yes, I'm accepting this prasad for Krishna's service, then Krishna will neutralize everything. So of course, at the same time, we also need to be careful. Of course, I'm sure all of us know that how when this temple was being constructed, devotees approached that person Venkateshwara Acharyas and Gopal Krishna Maharaj. He refused. Yes, and he told that no. If he comes and offers, yes, then we have no issues. That is direct. But we will not go and accept. So that is because that is direct sinful activity. But otherwise everyone is sinful.
Eating or feeding the renunciates. So there is one thing of reciprocation with them, right? They did something. Now we go to home, let us say sometimes. Then we do something there. Harinam, Harikatha. So here what we are doing means, so one devotee said every day morning program we are doing. That is what we are doing. So is it true? That's how I'm trying, difficult to accept. Because we are not reciprocating anything for what they have given. We have to give something in return. That's what Radheshambhu said, that you go to some home,
Yes,
then
that
you
is
can't
correct.
just eat and come back.
Yes, that is
You have to
correct.
do something.
Correct.
Now they are not means home. Here 10 people are announced and we just chant Hare Krishna for 10. So there all things are there. Huh? And so how do we understand this thing? Was it there at the time of Prabhupada, this kind of things?
So that's what during Srila Prabhupada's time also. So devotees were going everywhere and collecting money, life membership. It was happening everywhere. So there was no. So that's what. So there is no specific instance like that as far as I know. Because what can be done about it? So of course, if we talk about reciprocation, then our devotional service itself is reciprocation, watering the root of the tree. If you want to say in that way, then yes, we are watering the root of the tree, and in that way we are satisfying all living entities. So that's another part of the story, but then that's all what we can understand. That otherwise, it's very difficult. What institutional? No, this tradition was always there of since so many ages. This tradition is there of feeding brahmanas, feeding saintly persons. So this tradition has been. No, whatever it is. So, but in any case, there is, what is the alternative? That is the question. No, we are not depending on them. We are depending on Krishna. And they are agents of Krishna. That is what we have to accept. So Krishna is inspiring them to give, and we accept.
So there is a difference between going and accepting the invitation at their home, and then they are coming in temple and then giving the donation. So there's a difference, correct? Na?
What is the difference?
Means they are, because they are giving here to the institute, and then they are arranging prasadam for the brahmacharis or for sadhus, and then some devotees going to their home individually. They are calling. Isn't there some difference? I'm asking.
So that's what I.
Because what happens, like here in temple, anybody can give donation, no, Prabhuji. Here is not. But when we accept an invitation, we cannot accept invitation.
Yes,
of
we are
anyone.
selective.
So we become so there's a difference. I'm saying.
Okay.
Like Lord even accepts anybody's contribution.
Yes.
But then when we have to accept for certain purpose, then we have to be careful.
Yes.
So this is one thing I'm saying.
Yes, but at the same time, so they now, of course, even when we go to their homes, of course, we are selective on one hand, and at the same time, we also know that what is their standard and how they are cooking and all that. Now, when somebody contributes here, he gives money, but we have our cooks cooking, na?
Yes.
So then we know that there is some purity there.
Money is there.
One question is there online, that the story of a prostitute offered a feast in Radha Govind temple, and the pujaris ate it. Then the Lord told them, then the night they had a bad dream, and the Lord told that I can digest it, you can't digest it. Though the food was cooked by the pujaris only, but the money came from the prostitute.
Okay, okay. So you only tell what is the solution in current times, that you say.
I'm just asking the principle involved here. Here the like the cooks were pure, but the money came from a wrong source and it had an effect. So how to understand this, Prabhuji?
So therefore, of course, now whether I don't know that story, and so I don't know the details of that story, whether it was prasadam or it was just food that was cooked or what, I don't know. Huh? Uh-huh. So in any case, see, we have to follow footsteps of Srila Prabhupada, correct? So that's what as far as my knowledge goes, I don't know any instance or any instruction that as far as the prasadam for the devotees, one should take contribution only from these people, that people. I'm not aware of any. Anybody knows any such instruction? Huh?
And Prabhupada did a Pandal program in Bombay, Delhi, na? So they were invited by life members. And if you see, the life members are not chanting Hare Krishna also. But they were pious, cultured people. Prabhupada took prasad in their house, and all the brahmacharis also took in their house.
Yes,
and
of course, Prabhupada had devotees offer it.
Yes, that's what, but they are not devotee, so-called ISKCON devotee, in one sense. They are not chanting 6 and down, but Prabhupada and all people.
They were pious.
And
people.
Once there was a onion in the food. Prabhupada said, remove it and take. Why should not? You have told them all
beforehand. Yes.
Prabhupada has done this surah. So many Gujaratis they call, and sometimes they used to eat a lot of. Prabhupada told stop this thing now.
So therefore, see, there's no point in going ahead with the discussion, because the simple thing is we follow what Srila Prabhupada has followed, and all our temple leaders are there. They are also not some foolish people sitting there. So they know what is right, what is not. So we simply follow. We don't have to get too fanatic about all these things. And ultimately, the point is that the cooks are cooking. They have some level of purity, and ultimately, through the Guru Parampara, we're offering the food. So Krishna can neutralize everything. So therefore, we don't have to get into too much of this.
But at least we have to filter people who are giving. Like anyone cannot give for eating donation.
Okay, fine. You can give suggestion.
I asked, I can forward you the mail. I asked this thing to Radheshyam, and he sent me 2 articles, which I am trying to understand. His answer is also very mystic, like the four Kumaras are replied by the Lord. Na? So I replied to him that, oh, this is like four Kumaras reply. I didn't understand. So still that is going on.
Okay, good.
So
When
like
you-
two articles are from Krishna Kathamrit Bindu, and when I read them, I could read one of them. It's very high level article. So I don't know what he wants to say.
Okay. When you figure it out, you let us know. हाँ ठीक है, आगे बढ़ते हैं, वही खत्म करना है उसको, नहीं तो ईश्वर विल गेट एंग्री. ओके. 46. क्वचित् छन्न क्वचित् स्पष्ट उपास्य श्रेय इच्छताम भुंक्ते सर्वत्र दात्रीणां दहन प्राग उत्तराशुभम.
A saintly person, just like fire, sometimes appears in a concealed form and at other times reveals himself. For the welfare of the conditioned soul who desires real happiness, a saintly person may accept the worshipable position of his spiritual master, and thus, like fire, he burns to ashes all the past and future sinful reactions of his worshippers by mercifully accepting their offerings.
Okay, we already discussed these points. So sometimes he prefers to conceal his exalted spiritual position, but to instruct the suffering people of the world, he sometimes reveals his own greatness. And this is compared to a fire that sometimes burns unnoticed beneath ashes and sometimes blazes openly. So just as fire devours the ghee and other offerings given by the performers of sacrifice, similar saintly person accepts the praise offered by his conditioned followers, knowing that in fact all praise is meant for the Supreme Lord Krishna. Although an ordinary person immediately becomes puffed up and foolish when he is praised, such inauspicious tendencies within a saintly person are burned to ashes by his attachment to the absolute truth. In this way, he is just like fire. Okay. 47. Swamaya srishtam idam sad asal lakshanam vibhu pravishta iyate tat swarupo agnir ibaidhasi.
Just as fire manifests differently in pieces of wood of different sizes and qualities, the omnipotent Supreme Soul, having entered the bodies of higher and lower life forms created by his own potency, appears to assume the identity of each.
So although the Supreme Lord is within everything, everything is not the Lord. By the mode of goodness, the Lord creates exalted material bodies of demigods, brahmanas, and then mode of ignorance, he creates bodies of animals, shudras, and all that. The Lord enters all the superior and inferior creations, but he remains Vibhu, the all-powerful personality of Godhead. Srila Vishwanath Thakur explains that although fire is present within smoldering wood, it blazes forth when we stir the wood around. Similarly, although the personality of Godhead is indirectly present everywhere, when we chant and hear his glories with love and devotion, the Lord is stirred into manifestation and directly appears before his devotees. Okay. So the fire manifests differently in different size of the fuel. So similarly, the Supreme Lord is present in all the different bodies, but at the same time, he is not manifest to everyone. So there's a process by which we can understand the presence of the super soul in all the different bodies. So in this connection, there's a nice, very beautiful purport. So you can open. This is first canto, second chapter. This is 33 or 34. I know it comes a little later. 35, something like that. This is also talking about the super soul only. Super soul enters in the bodies of created beings or influence modes of man and causes them to enjoy the wisdom. Okay, go ahead. Purport. No, go ahead. Next. No, this is the last verse, no? Yes, this is the last verse. Okay, go. Yes. This one. The Lord as super soul pervades all things just as fire permeates wood. Same analogy, what is given here. And so he appears to be of many varieties, although he is the absolute one without a second. Okay, so very similar to what is being said here. So it's the same analogy of the fire. So he appears to be of many varieties because the wood is of many varieties, but actually he is one. Okay, now go to the purport. So he's present everywhere. Okay, read this purport.
Lord Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the one of his plenary parts expands himself all over the material world, and his existence can be perceived even within the atomic energy. Matter, antimatter, proton, neutron, etc. are all different effects of Paramatma feature of the Lord. As from wood, fire can be manifested, or as butter can be churned out of milk, so also the presence of Lord as Paramatma can be felt by the process of legitimate hearing and chanting of the transcendental subjects, which are especially treated in the Vedic literature like the Upanishads and Vedanta. Srimad Bhagavatam is a bona fide explanation of these Vedic literatures. The Lord can be realized through the oral reception of the transcendental message, and that is the only way to experience the transcendental subject. As fire is kindled from wood by another fire, the divine consciousness of man can similarly be kindled by another divine grace. His divine grace, the spiritual master, can kindle the spiritual fire from the wood-like living entity by imparting proper spiritual message injected through the receptive ear. Therefore, one is required to approach the proper spiritual master with receptive ears only, and thus divine existence is gradually realized. The difference between animality and humanity lies in this process only. A human being can hear properly, whereas an animal cannot.
So that's a really amazing statement. Go.
By doing this.
Yes. The Lord can be realized to the oral reception of the transcendental message, and that's the only way to experience the trans subject. As fire is kindled from wood by another fire, the divine consciousness of man can similarly be kindled by another divine grace. His divine grace, the spiritual master, can kindle the spiritual fire from the wood-like living entity by imparting proper spiritual messages injected through the receptive ear. So see, such an amazing phrase. By just that short phrase, Srila Prabhupada is showing the qualifications of both the speaker and the hearer. Injecting. So spiritual master must be able to inject. That means that potency must be there. And the hearer must have receptive ears. Then the message will go inside. So that's how the super soul can be realized. So very similar to what is being said over here. And that's what same thing is told over here also. When we chant and hear his glories with love and devotion, the Lord is stirred into manifestation, directly appears before his devotees. So this is all about fire. Okay, now next analogy, or the next guru from the next verse. That you can revise. Visargadya shmashananta bhava dehasya natmanah kalanamiva chandrasya kale navyakta vartmana.
The various phases of one's material life, beginning with birth and culminating in death, are all properties of the body and do not affect the soul, just as the apparent waxing and waning of the moon does not affect the moon itself. Such changes are enforced by the imperceptible moments of time.
Okay, this is very simple to understand. So the moon appears to be changing, but is not actually changing. So similarly, the soul does not change, even though the body is changing. Okay, next. Kalena yoga vegena bhutanam prabhavapyayo nityavapi na drishyete atmanogner yatharchisham.
The flames of a fire appear and disappear at every moment. And yet this creation and destruction is not noticed by the ordinary observer. Similarly, the mighty waves of time flow constantly, like the powerful currents of a river, and imperceptibly cause the birth, growth, and death of innumerable material bodies. And yet the soul, who is thus constantly forced to change his position, cannot perceive the actions of time.
So here, this is talking about how things are changing in the world. Flames of fire, they're changing, waves of time flow constantly. So many things are changing. The bodies are changing, birth, growth, death. So many external changes, but the soul remains as it is, and the soul cannot perceive these various actions of time because the changes are taking place imperceptibly. So therefore one does not understand, but the changes are taking place. What's the other analogy Prabhupada gave? Practical, modern day analogy. Yes, the film reel. The film reel. So it appears as if, yes, as if the person is moving and all that, but actually they're all different photographs that are moving at a certain speed. So similarly, one cannot perceive these changes because they're happening so fast, one cannot perceive the changes. Okay, purport. The Brahmana Avadut instructing King Yadu again gives the example of fire. So again he's coming to fire. After having already proceeded to the example of the moon. This analytical method is called Simhalokana, or the lion's glance, by which one simultaneously proceeds forwards and casts backward glances to see if anything has been overlooked. So he was speaking about fire. He spoke 3-4 verses on fire. So all of a sudden he remembered something is remaining about fire. So again he is speaking. Thus the sage proceeds with his analysis but returns to the example of fire to illustrate the need for renunciation. What was the verse? 40. This also went back all of a sudden.
Only we went ahead.
Okay. The material body is certainly an ephemeral and phantasmagorical manifestation of the Lord's external potency. The flames of a fire constantly take birth and disappear, yet we perceive the fire as continuous reality. Similarly, the soul is a continuous reality, although its material bodies appear and disappear constantly by the influence of time. It is said that the most astonishing thing is that no one thinks that they will die. Because the soul is eternal, the living entity is prone to accept any fleeting situation as permanent, forgetting that his eternal nature can be truly experienced only in the eternal atmosphere of the spiritual sky. One is convinced of this fact, he develops the quality of vairagya, or detachment from material. The only reason why we remain attached to this world is we think everything is permanent. The moment we understand next moment what will happen, nobody knows, then automatically there will be vairagya. The only thing why we attach, we think, oh, we'll live for so many years to enjoy this, enjoy that. But we don't know, next moment, finished. Then what? That's what he's saying. Everything is changing. Okay. So now he's coming to sun, 50th verse. Gunair gunanupadatte yatha kalam vimunchati nateshu yujjate yogi gobirga iva gopati.
Just as the sun evaporates large quantities of water by its potent rains and later returns the water to the earth in the form of a rain, similarly, a saintly person accepts all types of material objects with his material senses, and at the appropriate time, when the proper person has approached him to request them, he returns such material objects. Thus, both in accepting and giving up the objects of the senses, he is not entangled.
Yes, so the sun evaporates, then gives. So no attachment. Krishna conscious person never feels proprietorship over the opulences entrusted to him by Lord Krishna for spreading the Krishna conscious movement. The devotees of Lord Krishna should not merely accumulate material wealth, but should distribute the opulences of Lord Krishna in such a way the Krishna conscious movement spreads unlimitedly. This is a lesson to be learned from the sun. Okay, we already discussed about the wealth. So many people are giving wealth, but we should not become attached immediately. Use everything, Lord's service, yukta vairagya, not become attached to whatever we receive. So it could be wealth, it could be prestige, everything, whatever we receive, no proprietorship. We understand everything is Krishna is giving to be used in Krishna's service. That's all. No attachment. Okay, 51. Buddhyate svena bhedena vyakti iva tadgataha lakshate stula matibir atma chavastito arkavat.
Even when reflected in various objects, The sun is never divided, nor does it merge into its reflection. Only those with dull brains would consider the sun in this way. Similarly, although the soul is reflected through different material bodies, the soul remains undivided and non material.
Okay, so same thing applies to Atma, Paramatma, same thing. This analogy is given. So the sun is never divided. You can have 100 parts. It appears as if the sun is reflected differently, but actually it's only one sun. So similarly, the soul, super soul, they are reflected within different bodies. So it's not that they are divided. Okay, so they're explaining about the soul. Okay, we'll go ahead. नाति स्नेह प्रसंगो वा कर्तव्य क्वापि केनचित् कुर्वन् विन्देत संतापं कपोत इव दीनधी.
One should never indulge in excessive affection or concern for anyone or anything. Otherwise, one will have to experience great suffering, just like the foolish pigeon.
So here, na ati sneha. Yesterday also we discussed now about sneha, affection, attachment. So there can be affection, but not attachment, and not ati sneha. So as in the purport, they're saying the Sanskrit prefix ati or excessive indicates affection or attachment in which there is no Krishna consciousness. Best example for this is, yes, one is Dhritarashtra, attachment to Duryodhan, other Bharat Maharaj and the deer. So all these cases it is ati, ati. And so they compromise their Krishna consciousness because of that ati sneha. So therefore, further down it says, the best way for anyone to show compassion and affection for all living beings is to become a preacher on behalf of Lord Krishna and assist the Lord in reclaiming the fallen souls. If our affection or attachment for others is based on bodily sense gratification in the name of society, friendship, and love, that excessive unwanted affection, ati sneha, will cause burning pain at the time of the breaking or destruction of the relationship. So now the story of the foolish pigeon will be narrated. And similar stories there in the 7th canto, Yamraj. Okay, so now this is the story of the pigeon. So now just read the translations now. This is a simple story.
There once was a pigeon who lived in the forest along with his wife. He had built a nest within a tree and lived there for several years in her company. The two pigeons were very much devoted to their household duties. Their hearts being tied together by sentimental affection, they were each attracted by the other's glances, bodily features, and the states of mind. Thus, they completely bound each other in affection. Namely, trusting in the future, they carried out their acts of resting, sitting, walking, standing, conversing, playing, eating, and so forth as a loving couple among the trees of the forest. Whenever she desired anything, O king, the she pigeon would flatteringly cajole her husband, and he in turn would gratify her by faithfully doing whatever she wanted, even with the great personal difficulty. Thus, he could not control his senses in her association. Then the female pigeon experienced her first pregnancy. When the time arrived, the chaste lady delivered a number of eggs within the nest in the presence of her husband. When the time was ripe, baby pigeons with tender limbs and feathers, created by the inconceivable potencies of the Lord, were born from those eggs. The two pigeons became most affectionate to their children and took great pleasure in listening to their awkward chirping, which sounded very sweet to the parents. Thus, with love, they began to raise the little birds who were born of them. The parent birds became very joyful by observing the soft wings of their children, their chirping, their lovely innocent movements around the nest, and their attempts to jump up and fly. Seeing their children happy, the parents were also happy. Their hearts bound to each other by affection, the foolish birds, completely bewildered by the illusory energy of Lord Vishnu, continued to take care of young offspring who had been born to them. One day, the two heads of family went out to find a food for the children. Being very anxious to feed their offspring properly, they wandered all over the forest for a long time. At that time, a certain hunter who happened to be wandering through the forest saw young pigeons moving about near their nests. Spreading out his net, he captured them all. The pigeon and his wife were always anxious for the maintenance of their children, and they were wandering in the forest for that purpose. Having obtained proper food, they now returned to their nest. When the lady pigeon caught sight of her own children trapped within the hunter's net, she was overwhelmed with anguish, and crying out, she rushed toward them as they cried out to her in return. The lady pigeon had always allowed herself to be bound by the ropes of intense material affection, and thus her mind was overwhelmed by anguish. Being in the grip of illusory energy of Lord, she completely forgot herself. Rushing forward to her helpless children, she was immediately bound in the hunter's net. Seeing his own children, who were more dear to him than life itself, fatally bound in the hunter's net, along with his dearmost wife, whom he considered equal in every way to himself, the poor male pigeon began to lament wretchedly. The male pigeon said, alas, just see how I am now destroyed. I am obviously a great fool, for I did not properly execute the pious activities. I could not satisfy myself, nor could I fulfill the purpose of life. My dear family, which was the basis of my religiosity, economic development, and sense gratification, is now hopelessly ruined. My wife and I were ideal match. She always faithfully obeyed me and in fact accepted me as her worshipable deity. But now seeing her children lost and her home empty, she has left me behind and gone to heaven with our saintly children. Now I am a wretched person living in an empty house. My wife is dead. My children are dead. Why should I possibly want to live? My heart is so pained by separation from my family that the life itself has become simply suffering. As the father pigeon wretchedly stared at his poor children trapped in the net and on the verge of death, pathetically struggling to free themselves, his mind went blank, and thus he himself fell into hunter's net. The cruel hunter, having fulfilled his desire by capturing the head pigeon, his wife, and all of the children, set off for his own home. In this way, one who is too attached to family life becomes disturbed at heart. Like pigeon, he tries to find pleasure in mundane sex attraction. Busily engaged in maintaining his own family, the miserly person is fated to suffer greatly along with all his family members. The doors of liberation are opened wide to one who has achieved human life. But if a human being simply devotes himself to family life like the foolish bird in the story, then he is to be considered as one who has climbed to a high place only to trip and fall down. Thus ends the purports of humble servants of His Divine Grace, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the 11th canto, 7th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Lord Krishna Instructs Uddhav.
Ya prapya manusham lokam mukti dwaram apavritam griheshu kagavat saktas tam arudha chutam vidhu. So one has got manusham lokam, the human form of life. Mukti dwaram apavritam, one can use human life for getting liberation. But if one becomes sakta, attached like this khagavat, then arudha chutam, very high fall. So this is the result of material attachments. And so, of course, this is basically talking about Grihamedi's life and all his material attachments. Of course, Lord Kapil also describes in great detail in the 3rd canto, towards the end. But of course, even as brahmacharis, devotees, we can have so many other material attachments. So many different material attachments can be there. But the result will be the same. Arudha chuta. So if one does not give up the material attachments, then even within Krishna consciousness, one can rise very high. But if one is not careful about these attachments, one can fall from the high position. Of course, unfortunately, we have enough examples within our own society. And therefore, the lesson is we should always be on guard because Maya is always trying to allure us, so many different allurements. So we always explain that Bharat Maharaj had a deer, and we may think we don't have deer within the ashram, but there could be so many other things in the form of the deer. So each one has to introspect and find out for oneself, who is my dear or what is my dear? My dear dear. So we have to figure out what are those attachments that are still lingering, to which we are attached and which could impede our progress. We all know the marriage story, marriage party story. So therefore, this is individual homework which everyone has to do. In the Brahmachari class also we were discussing that institutionally there could be so many services, there could be institutional successes, but institutional success need not always be individual success. That we have to understand. So, individual success is individual because every soul is individual. And therefore, that individual success is my own endeavor. And that endeavor, of course, implies depending on the mercy of the Lord. But there is no substitute to individual efforts and individual endeavors in spiritual progress. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada gives the well-known example of everyone has to fly his own plane. And so therefore there is no substitute to those individual endeavors to chant the holy names attentively, endeavors to hear the Bhagavatam attentively, endeavor to do whatever service that's allotted to us in the right consciousness. This all is an individual exercise. Nobody else can do it for us. And thus that individual progress remains individual. And of course, as Srila Prabhupada says, so much help can be given to the plane on the ground. So the help can be taken from the society, from other devotees, but ultimately it's an individual process which I have to work on. So therefore, we have to figure out what material attachments each one of us has which is impeding our own progress. And with the help of the Vaishnavas and the Shastras, one should try to figure out and how to get free from those material attachments so that one does not fall into this trap of arudha chutam. Rather, mukta dwaram apavrat. One can utilize the human form of life to get free from the bondage of material existence. So in this way, the Avadut Brahman, of course, ultimately it's Krishna who's speaking the whole thing, but the Avadut Brahman is giving various lessons through his various gurus to all of us. And so we can meditate on these and try to apply these various principles within our own life. Of course, his teachings continue into the next chapter. Okay, fine. So we are on time. So, for the pleasure of His Grace Arjun Ishwar Prabhu and for the pleasure of all the Vaishnavas, so we try to do a small insignificant service in trying to discuss these chapters of the 11th canto Srimad Bhagavatam. So I'm extremely grateful to all of your association. So it seems today Krishna Rup Mataji is conspicuous by her absence.
Prabhuji, I had gone to Bharati Vidyapeeth and I was hearing the whole class because they made us sit for 2 hours in one corner. We had a meeting with the principal.
Oh.
So they made us wait. I was very happy she made me wait for 2 hours so that I can do Shravanam.
Oh.
And then the meeting was only for 15 minutes. And they said, wait for another 10 minutes. And there they made us wait for another 1 hour, and I was again very happy. They made us wait for, so I was able to hear the whole class very nicely.
Okay, good.
Only the thing is, I was not able to participate because there were many people around and I was in such
Right,
a place.
right.
But
Okay,
I did good, Shravanam Prabhuji. I was making notes also, Prabhuji.
okay, good. Okay, fine. Thank you. Okay, so thank you. So I would like to express my gratitude to all of you, both who are sitting here and online, for kindly allowing me to render this small service. Though all of you are very well aware that my knowledge is too meager, and I hardly know anything. But I'm grateful that I've got a chance to read and discuss the Bhagavatam in association of so many wonderful senior Vaishnavas. So, of course, the greatest benefit I only get by so much of Vaishnav association and Sangha, and giving me a chance to read the Bhagavatam and trying to learn in the association of devotees by your wonderful contributions. So thank you all very much for allowing me to render this service, and I look forward to your association again.
Prabhuji,
Very
Hare
much.
Krishna, all your points are so practically nourishing. We look forward. Actually, we don't get so much from other. I mean, we hanker, and I'm sure it is true with all the devotees. Thank you. Very, very insightful, very nourishing.
Thank you very much for your kind association and your kind contributions. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Samved Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So kindly excuse me for all the mistakes and inadequacies in my presentations. Vancha kalpataru.
Hare Krishna. So we are very thankful, very fortunate for Prabhuji coming here and guiding us. His clarity, his authority, his openness, and he also expected today with all of us that we should also be sincere, beginning from myself actually. So in releasing the timetable as well as attending the classes on time, and all the offline and online devotees are requested that offline devotees, they should be present on time, and online devotees, they should keep their videos open.
Prabhuji, generally we expect that we want to be offline, but we cannot be offline, Prabhuji. That is the challenge for us, Matajis. Otherwise, for me, online is very impersonal, I feel. Sitting in the class and, in that association, that whole aura or energy that is there is so powerful. And Prabhuji, one thing I like very much about it, that whatever you start, you will end. For sure. जो कुछ भी आप start करेंगे, पक्का उसको end करेंगे. And you have proved it again, Prabhuji, that
Hare Krishna, there is enough space here in the class. Others can also come and attend class. Behind means the place is there, so Matajis can also come and sit there. There's no issue. We have a big
I'm
room.
only the one Mataji Prabhuji in front of all Prabhujis Prabhuji. Archavigra Mataji is staying very far. Nitya Tarangini Mataji in Mayapur. And I'm only one Mataji, so little I'm uncomfortable.
Okay. So Hare Krishna. So we are very, very thankful for Prabhuji. So relating all the Prabhupada purports, and he remembers all the with the means sloka points, and it is very, very. Huh?
Oh, yeah.
So this also gives means all of us some practice we can also do to remember the points from Prabhupada purports, which always makes us more authoritative in our presentation. So we like the Prabhuji presentation and learn a lot of from Prabhuji's his own examples. So we heartily thank Prabhuji by chanting one time Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare. His Grace Vansivardhan Prabhu ki jai.
Yeah. So we have certain Mahaprasadam.
Jai Jai.
Where is it?
Where? अरे वो तो यंग 30 इयर्स हो गए कोलेस्ट्रॉल
नहीं है, उनका हार्ट में बचपन से इतना बड़ा पेशेंट है। कमल किशन का जो एटलीस्ट है
हिल नहीं सकते।
कभी भी कुछ भी हो सकता
मेरे सामने तो इतने लोग चिल्ला रहे थे, एक के बाद एक पेशेंट मरे थे। अरे
अभी कहाँ थे?
हाँ, भारती हॉस्पिटल में था ना मैं।
हाँ हाँ।
इतना लोग चिल्ला रहे थे। एक के बाद एक। आज भी नहीं उठा।
सबको
इतना बड़ा
तो बड़ा
हाँ प्रसादम की जय।
वो तो सिर्फ जय बोल सकते।
जय जय प्रसादम की जय। Thank you for giving darshan. Hari bol, Hari bol.
Prabhuji, you can just bless us from there in the form of Mahaprasad. That is Mahaprasad for us.